Hey, welcome everyone. This is Dan with the Spiritual Underground Podcast, coming to you over the medium of Zoom tonight. Get these little commercials out of the way. First off, I want to thank Darren Frank for allowing his music to be played at the intro and outro of this podcast. Anybody in the Louisville metropolitan area that needs some handyman work or woodworking, my little company is dtmww.net. You can go to that, or it's DTM Woodwork and Handyman, and or you can call me at 502-292-7444. And need to talk about 12-Step Spiritual Recovery. That is a book by James Christopher Cohn. It is the 12 steps for everyone. I've kind of settled in on three groups. It seems to what seems to be settling into our very successful meetings, which we've just started a new meeting here. Will begin this Sunday, August the 1st. One more meeting. And, it's for people who don't fit in the traditional 12-step fellowships. If you don't have what we call an ism, if you don't suffer from substance abuse or overspending or overeating or gambling, the typical 12-step fellowships, this is a place you can come and get the same tools many millions have used to recover from those afflictions. It's for folks who maybe are still part of a 12-step fellowship and maybe want a little deeper dive, a little different look at the steps. Bill Wilson in the Big Book tells us to continue. And that to me means to continue to look for ways to improve the quality of my life in recovery. And this just might be one of those avenues for you. And finally, I meet people and they said, AA just ain't for me, or NA is just not for me. I just couldn't feel welcome there. Well, these are the same tools and a back door to them. And maybe it would be something that you would fit with you and you'd feel a little more comfortable with it. Once again, it's 12-Step Spiritual Recovery by James Christopher Cohn. You can get it at Amazon and Kindle, hardback, and there's actually a volume 1 and a volume 2 if you want to piecemeal it. And I have a few first chapters recorded here on the podcast too. If you look them up, you can find them where I've done my best job at turning a few of them into an audio book so you can get a little taste of it. Man, I really feel blessed that Higher Power's been supporting this podcast and bringing me guests, and it just continues to flow. I don't have to work real hard at it. It's one of the reasons I know it's being supported is that it just flows. That's another thing about life and what's happened to me since I got sober is that, I do have to put in some effort and there is action required in this life of sobriety. And we say it works if you work it. But a lot of things just flow and a lot of things just seem to fall in line. I'll tell a real quick story today. I was putting in a new faucet for a lady and she needed new supply lines. And so I had to run out to Home Depot real quick and grab a couple of supply lines. I do such varied things that I don't keep anything in stock. And I walked down the aisle to where supply lines are at and I needed 20-inch 3/8 by 1/2 inch supply lines. And I looked at this huge rack of supply lines and those were the only ones that were completely missing. They did not have any. They had everything else were stacked out to the edge of the row. And I stood there for a minute and I just started thinking, well, I guess I'll go to Lowe's or I'll go to the other Home Depot across town, or sitting there and off to my right, I heard a voice say, I bet I got what you need. I looked down the aisle and here come a lady in a Home Depot uniform pushing a grocery basket. And I said, well, what do you got? And she says, I have 20-inch 3/8 by 1/2 inch supply lines. And she had a basket full of them. And it just seems like when I'm following this path and working this program and doing the next right thing as much as I can possibly do it, those kind of things just happen. Now, what's the chance this lady's going to turn the corner with the exact item I need? Right on time. And that's no kidding, just a few hours ago today. And that's the same way it happens with these guests and getting to know people and getting to know my friends better by a result of having them on my podcast, and then getting to meet people from all over the country and feeling like I have a new friend when the podcast is over. So Kim's my guest today. I met her on a podcast on a service that puts podcast guests with podcasts. It's a little spooky doing that. I never know what I'm getting, but I keep on trusting God to send who needs to be sent. And I really don't know. I look at that little lineup and I read those little bullets, and I'll poke on the button if it hits me. I just go by gut. I don't I don't do any real research. And so I was excited to hear Kim's got a lot of stuff going on, and it has from the little bit I heard, a really cool history, and has had some pretty exciting things in her life to talk about today. How are you doing tonight, Kim?
I'm very good. And how are you doing?
I am doing good. I get my second wind. I come home. I'm a big time napper. I have perfected the art of the nap. I have trophies on the wall. Uh, and recovery is a piece of that. The practice and meditation has allowed me to turn myself off. I can basically turn myself off, so I don't try to take a nap. I had 15 minutes a little bit ago, and I got a 15-minute nap. And used to be I'd try to go to sleep for 15 minutes, and then slap myself on the knee because time was up. So that recharges my batteries, and then I'm all ready for whatever comes next. I can do it I can take a nap in the car pickup line at school waiting for the kids if I'm a few minutes early. So recharged. What was your sobriety date?
May 13th, 2019.
2019. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
I always like to go back to the beginning, mainly just because of the varied backgrounds people come from that end up with this affliction, this disease. We all say it doesn't respect any economic or backgrounds or anything like that. And so where'd you grow up at? Where are you from?
Toronto, Ontario.
Is that where you still
Canada.
live?
I'm just north. I'm still in Ontario.
Still in the same region, still in the same area?
Pretty much. An hour and a half out of Toronto.
Yeah. Not too long ago, I had a DJ from Toronto on here. Jason Rockman does some kind of rock station DJing out of Toronto.
Oh, yeah.
I asked him if that was his real name, and he said it was. His last name is Rockman. So how was growing up? Tell me a little bit about what your early life and how it was as you were a kid, brothers, sisters, that kind of stuff.
Well, I grew up in Toronto with my mother and father, who were, they had me later in life. And that's significant because it's part of the story. So my mother was 40 when she had me. My dad was 44 at the time. I have two older sisters, but I didn't know I had two older sisters, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Well, because they didn't live with me from the moment I was born because they were already out of the house. That's how much older. My oldest sister is 22 years older than me. So I'm 50 right now. She's 72. And my other sister is 14 years older than me. So
did you really not know them, or you just didn't like it? Was like probably more like an aunt or something.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Like I really didn't get that they were my sisters.
Yeah,
Because everybody else that I knew that had sisters and brothers, they lived with them in their house and they were the same age or they were very close in age, right?
Yeah.
So
I had a cousin who was the same age as me, and he had a sister that was much older, and I never saw her as a cousin because she was out of the house and she didn't live with him, and it's always felt more like she was an aunt than a cousin.
Yeah, it's different, but I'm very close with my oldest sister, and I always have been. So she has four sons that are my age, right? Because there's such an age difference. So they're more like they don't call me aunt, of course, because we're too close in age, but I feel very close to them, not as close as brothers and sisters, because again, we didn't live together, but I do feel very closer than I would have probably if I had, nieces and nephews from maybe somebody closer to my age that I wouldn't see, but because growing up with them, right? And then my other sister, same thing. She has two daughters who are close to my age again. And, I talk more to them than I do her.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And
pretty unusual to be spread out like that. So I'm just going to guess that well, how was it when you grew up? Was it good? Was it
no, it was shitty.
shitty?
We lived, I mean, we not, I mean, I didn't realize that we didn't have a lot of money, right? My mom didn't work. My dad just worked. He was a postman, but he was also an alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that might be one of the reasons why we didn't have a lot of money. I'm not sure, maybe, but I didn't realize it when I was that young. Maybe there was a lot of money going out the door for booze. And there was a Linsmore. I don't even know if you call it a Linsmore. Some of your listeners might not know what a Linsmore is. I only know what that word is because my mother would always say, my dad's at the Linsmore, right? Which is a bar,
Oh, well, yeah,
basically,
I didn't know what
right?
that was.
Yeah, right. So, and that costs money. Drinking out isn't free. And that's how she started drinking because she got sick of being at home by herself. So she
Yeah.
would go there to meet him. So that growing up. And then we moved from where we were renting to another rental. And I was 12 years old when my father died. And I was at home the morning it happened. It's more than just being home. I was in grade 6 and he'd been sick for 3 days, but he'd been sick before. I didn't think anything of it. I really didn't have a great relationship with my dad because he was an alcoholic, right? My thing with my dad was I would come home and either he'd be passed out on the couch, and we live in an apartment, so you can imagine as soon as you walk in, apartment layouts, right? Like you're there.
Right.
He'd either be passed out on the couch or I never even knew when he was drunk because I get that's how alcoholics are. They
Yeah.
kind of always, he was always, the same.
Yeah.
He
There's
drank
some
when he
level.
was at, yeah, he drank when he's at work. My mother would later tell me that we lived on the second floor of that apartment building, that she would find him in the hall, in the stairway. He hadn't quite made it all the way up the stairs, 2 floors, and passed out.
Yeah.
And she would cover up a lot, right? That I wasn't aware of or needed to know. All I knew is that I didn't have any friends because they didn't want to come over because they didn't, my dad made them feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Not that he did anything verbally, just that he himself, right? Who wants to be around that? Like,
Yep.
they didn't have that, or maybe they did, but not the friends that I had. Like, I'm sure there are other people who went through it. I know there are other people.
Yep.
So,
Definitely a crowd around you.
yeah. So he'd been home for 3 days, and it was the morning of a big day for me at school. It was called Play Day. So it came around once a year. And in grade 6, being the grade I was in the top of my school. So what happens is everybody gets put on teams, and you had a team leader, and then you do games against each other all day, like relay stuff and all that. So I was really, really excited. And I was first time going to be a team leader. And I was getting ready. It was about 8:30 in the morning. And my mom knocked on my bedroom door, which is like, I mean, right beside her bedroom, right beside the bathroom, and said, "Can you help me? Your dad's in the bathroom and I can't get into the bathroom." So I'm like, okay, because she knows I know how to use, those little, you put the butter
Yep.
knife in and you change. Yeah. So I went to the bathroom or to the kitchen, and I got a butter knife and opened up the bathroom door. And so I'm 12 at this time. I just turned 12
Wow.
3 months prior. So my dad is passed out, slumped over I guess he looked like he'd been going to the washroom, and he'd slumped over because the bathtub's right beside the toilet, right? So my mom, I guess, was trying to wake him up. He wasn't waking up. She asked me to help her carry him, which my dad, because he'd lost a lot of weight. He was always thin that I knew him, but tall, very tall, but like 6'2" or something. But he had to have weighed still about 175 or something, I would say, because he was so tall but thin. Anyways, I don't even know how. I don't even know how we did it. It wasn't far, but just the same, right? So
Yep.
I don't even know if I had the legs or if I had him under the arm. Like, I don't even know. And my mother wasn't a big lady either. We're both only 5'3", right? And so we brought him into the bedroom, lied him down so his feet were kind of, on the edge of the bed, because there's obviously couldn't get him anymore. And then I had been taking swimming lessons. So if you know about swimming lessons, there comes a point in your swimming lessons when you have to do the CPR part,
Yep.
mouth to mouth, artificial, la 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 la, which I failed because I refused to put my mouth on anybody.
Mhm.
And that was when I was 11, because I knew That was gross. And now, do you think they even consider doing that? Right? No, I knew. Anyways, so I failed it, but I knew what I had to do. Anyways, my mom, she goes, can you give your dad CPR, because I have to go call the police and the ambulance or the ambulance, because you don't have cell phones. You didn't have anything.
Right.
You
Run
had
down to the kitchen.
you know that one?
Rotary phone.
Yeah. So I'm like, she leaves. It's not like she's waiting for me to say yes or no, because really my answer would have been no, because let alone people in my CPR swimming class that I thought was gross. This was my dad, and he stank of booze. He say that stale, gross smell, right?
Yep.
Let alone putting my mouth on his mouth. And I remember that because that's still how I feel. Still how I feel, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And he was dead. He was dead anyways already. He was not even alive. Anyway, so I did what I had to do, and then I determined, yeah, he's dead. My mom came back. I said, Mom, he's dead. And she said, okay, you go back on the phone. They're still on the phone. So she stayed. I don't know what she did with him. I don't know. And I went to the phone, and then they were asking me all these crazy questions that I didn't know the answer, like the nearest intersection. It's not crazy, but for an 11, like for a 12-year-old, like, I don't know. What do you mean?
You're being slammed with trauma.
Well, yeah. And then, so that call ended. The ambulance came. That I remember, my sister came, the middle sister came. I think she took me. I think my mom went in the ambulance with my dad. And we all went to the hospital, and my other sister met us there with her husband. And the doctor came out, I don't know, after a little bit, and he asked my mom all these questions. We could hear it, like it was in front of us all, about when he last worked and this and that. And it was 3 days ago, my mom said. And the doctor went, I cannot believe that your husband worked up to 3 days ago. He was a very, very, very sick man. Right. And then he just dropped the mic on her and went, sorry, there was nothing we could do for him. He's dead. Because it sounded like there was, they were going to say, okay, well, he's in the back. We've, whatever, anything, right? Nothing. So then they asked who wanted to go see him wherever he was. And I was the only one to say no, because I don't want to go see him. I don't want to see him on a regular day. I want to see, I know that sounds awful, but I really had no relationship with the man. He never came to any of my school functions. I think he picked me up from school once. Because it was a really bad windy day weather-wise. He never came to any of my school functions. I never remember doing anything with him. Like, he never took me anywhere or did anything as a family. We didn't have a car. But even if we did, I don't know. Like, well, he wouldn't be able to drive anyways because he was drunk all the time. He carried a bottle at work with him. That was when they carried the satchel, like they carried all the mail, and he had many, many friends on his route that he'd stop in and they would drink together. So they said he was dead. I could hear them all go into the hospital room where he was. I could hear the screams and the crying. And then I guess then after that, it was just, okay, My oldest sister was helping my mom with the funeral arrangements. And I didn't ever cry. I never shed a tear. Went to the funeral. You know what my thought process was? Now life can be great. It's just going to be my mom and me, because she was my rock. She was the one who cooked for me. She was the one who took care of me. She was the one who came to school, and like, she was the person that made me feel good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get emotional.
No, that's fine.
But it didn't work out like that, because then my mother became the alcoholic, and then she replaced my dad with me. So I kind of became her spouse. Not in a, you know what I mean? Yep. Like in a company way. Yep. Because he was all she had. She didn't have many friends or a social life. Like, it was just, and I guess not having a car didn't help, right? So she couldn't really go anywhere. Yeah. So it was just them. They'd been together for 36 years at that point too, right? Being together, like, when she was 14.
Oh, wow.
So Um, yeah, so that it actually got worse. So it wasn't good. um, so it got worse, and I did have some girlfriends. I had friends, more so when I was 16, 17. And then one of those friends, well, there were two best friends. One of those friends got diagnosed with leukemia and wound up dying.
Wow.
Yeah, I think we were 20 or 21, she was. So that was another devastating thing. And then, I mean, before that, when I was 8, I know my mother carries this around, and I mention it because it does have relevance again because of the path that I went into for my job and profession and what I specialized in. My mom had my mom was a she was a very protective mom, but there one occasion, and it wasn't that far, it was across the street, and like 5 stores down there was a dry cleaners, and she asked me if I could take her jacket in. I was 8, so I went with a friend who lived across the street. Like, it wasn't a big deal, right? Like, it really wasn't. I know somebody might go, oh my God, 8 years old, like right now, today's time, but not then. It wasn't a big deal
Right.
then.
Yeah.
So I went to bring her jacket in. I was with my friend. There was a young boy at the time. I know now he was 17 years old. He was very chatty. He was chatting us up, but I was 8. I didn't know what chatting you up meant, but now that I look back, that's exactly what it was. And then we came back home, and my mom said, oh, I forgot the belt. Can you take the belt back for me? Right. And add it to the order. So my girlfriend didn't want to go back with me. So I went back by myself. And this guy took me into the back of the store. Anyways, I when I got out of there, I went home, told my mother what happened. My dad got wind of it. I don't know if he was home at the time. Anyways, he went over there. He was going to kill
Mm.
the guy. And the cops came and everything. And I mean, I wasn't there when the police came, but all I know is that they told my parents that, well, this is from my mom, that he'd never done anything like this before. He was very young. He was scared shitless.
Oh.
So they suggested that my mom and dad not lay charges, and they didn't. So a report was put in, though. At that time, the
Did he
name
work at the dry cleaning place? Is that
he did work there. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
okay?
he was the employee there. So
Okay. Yep.
um, at that time, the name of the report was indecent assault on female. Because of the criminal code back in 1978, right? That's how it read,
Mm.
and that's again ironic because in my career, that's what I did. I investigated sexual assaults on children, and I laid the charge many a time. And every time I did, it would play on me. And I did try and look it up, my old police report, only because then years and years later, when I'm doing this as a profession, I'm realizing, I wonder if this guy um, grew up to be a pedophile or
Yeah.
a child molester. I really did. It was like curiosity was getting me because my parents let him off, you know? And
Yeah.
I know nothing would have come of it. I know he wouldn't have had to get help for what he did. You know what I mean? Like, so
And they say it's another one of those. I mean, it's whatever, these spiritual sicknesses, that, nobody in their right mind would do that. There's something wrong. There's some wiring
well,
that's
not a 17-year-old and an 8.
when, when they, uh, and that, because I've got some history with that also from a different direction, and I started doing some looking, and and I was blown away. And when I told my friends about this finding in some of these writings, is that when a pedophile gets caught, there's like, if it gets one exposure, usually is hiding someplace around 50 not getting caught.
Say
Uh,
that again. One.
when a pedophile, once they get caught, there's
Oh,
probably 50 or so affected people somewhere, maybe not all the way to the worst case thing, but there's been 50 attempts or successful
before they got caught.
molestations and stuff
Yeah.
before they get caught.
Yes, I believe that.
So
It's not the first
they would
time.
just
I
keep
mean,
on doing it and keep on doing it until they are stopped.
yes, It's a disease. I mean, as much
Yep.
as we don't want to admit it, like people have a hard time, and I did too, about the alcohol thing, about it being a disease, because I was
Mhm.
resentful and angry at my father for years and years and years and years up until 2 years ago. Now it's just sad. It's sad. When I repeat it, it's not that I'm angry. It's just like I can hear myself saying it, and it makes me sad for that little girl.
Right. Yep. That little girl shouldn't have had to go through that.
So and I was resentful as well because my mom told, again, it's my mom relaying this stuff. My mom had told me that the doctor told my dad that if he quit drinking, he could live another 10 years. Um, and he tried. He tried for 3 days, and he said to my mom, he goes, "Listen, I'd rather die happy than live miserable." He goes, "I can't do it." So that's how it went. So even if he did that and he lived another 10 years, I think that was 2 years before he actually died. So what? So I would have lost him when I was 20
Yeah.
instead of, or 22. You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't have made the situation any better, actually. Either between 12 and 22, things would have gotten maybe progressively worse at home, right? Because he still would have been an
Yeah.
alcoholic.
Yeah. His
And I'm getting
alcoholism was,
older.
yeah, his
Yeah,
alcoholism was a progressed and things would have been
right.
worse.
Yes. Um, there wouldn't end. I would have had more time with him. I would have had more attachment time, probably, right?
Mhm.
Where
Yeah.
then if I lost him anyways, maybe it would have broke me more, like,
Maybe.
because
Yeah.
really I didn't have that attached, besides knowing this is my father, you know, there wasn't anything that I could, like, I can't even write him a nice card and go, "You were the best dad ever." You know what I mean? Like how
Yeah.
parents want that card acknowledging they've done great. Nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah.
And that's because he couldn't give me anything.
Right. Yep.
He didn't have any. You know what he gave me? He worked up until the last day that he couldn't work anymore, so that my mom and I, you
Yep.
know
It's interesting. There's that dynamic where a lot of alcoholics are workaholics at the same time. I think it's a cover job. It's to, I'm working I'm working here. So, that covers for what I'm doing over here with the drinking. I don't have a problem because I'm holding my job and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing over here as a man. And yeah, I went for that. I thought that, I tried to be a superstar at work because that helped me do the cover job on my drinking and using.
yeah.
I'm sorry that's
Well,
way that
so
you're
those
right.
are,
It just
yeah.
shouldn't be that way. But so carry on with the story.
Oh, so I would so those were just some of the stuff, like, up until that time, that I just began to think that I'm not meant to have anything nice or good, when it just, big major events were happening, and they weren't happening in anyone else's life that was my age. It was just me, and I didn't know what brought the luck to me.
Yep.
But that's not understanding. Like, it wasn't that God was out to get me or anything. It was just, I don't know, actually.
You didn't feel
Maybe
that way.
right, maybe he was trying to, well, I don't, it develops you into the person that you are, right? And I wouldn't be
Yes.
the person that I am. And there's a heck of a lot of people that think I'm a damn good person, so I'm glad for that. um so at It didn't surprise me, again, right? You have all these realizations later, that my profession choice was to go into policing, which I did when I was 19. So just recently retiring, after 30 years.
Did you go to
So
some sort of a college for law enforcement? Did you?
I didn't. I didn't go. School was not my deal.
Uh-huh.
But I was going to go to college and do police foundations, which they offer here, and they highly recommend it. But at the time, I went to a recruiting class at the Toronto Police Headquarters, and they said, and then they put you with one-on-one with somebody, and he said, "Tell you the truth, Kim, I wouldn't bother going to college. I would just apply right now for the cadet program, because you can get in before you were 21, and you'd have to do Joe jobs or whatever in uniform but with no gun. And then when you
Yep.
were of age, when you're 21, they'd send you off, right?"
Mhm.
So that was his suggestion. So I was like, okay,
Mhm.
because I'd already gone to the pre stuff at the college and everything, and I passed because there was a lot of competition to get in. So I got a spot. But when they said that, I was like, okay, like, I'm 19. I'm listening to what every adult tells me at this point,
And
I didn't have
school's not all that either. I mean, I know some people like school a lot, but
oh no, I couldn't stand
when I
school.
had a similar thing go on and I got off the hook of that, I could continue my employment and progress in my ranks and not go to college. I took that avenue in a heartbeat. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
go do that if I don't have to?
Exactly. And I really didn't like school. Like I didn't even graduate from high school except to go back after. Once I started working full time, it was short one credit and I took it in night school. And it was auto mechanics and I passed with a 50.
Mhm.
So, do you know I was not that I'm a practical, you know, show me let's do it, but I'm not a
Yeah, I never liked school. I
yeah,
just couldn't. It was just something you had to do, and I did it, and I did it for the least amount of time I could possibly get away with.
yeah, me too. So that's what I took his advice. I got hired. It took 7 months. So I had a job, of course, like everyone else. My mom worked at an insurance company part-time. She never worked full-time. She worked part-time. She went back to school with her credit. I mean, to her credit after my dad died,
Mhm.
after a little bit of time, she went back to school and got a little more education so she could get a job with typing. She could get something, and she did. So she got a job at IOF. I don't even know that they're there anymore. So it's an insurance company, independent order forcers, and got me a summer job there one summer. I got a summer job there the next summer, and then I applied for full time, and I got a full time job, and actually was doing very good there, surprisingly. Because once I did get into the real work, I'm a worker.
Yeah,
Not just one job. Like I'll do two or three if what's needed. Like that's okay. Um,
it's
so
a
like
common trait.
yeah, well, not in everybody. A lot
Well, you do. You have these. There's just
classes.
such a dynamic, because I know a lot of guys who are like that, who just bust their rear ends and drank their way through it and actually excelled, and you do have the ones that are the ones that just can't seem to get anything right too, just
Ah,
can't hold a job and can't do all that.
oh,
Uh,
sorry, that's what
but
you meant. Us alcoholics. I thought
yeah,
you meant people in general. Because
yeah,
I was going to say, COVID has taught me that there's a lot of lazy people who want to stay home and never go back to work again.
but yeah, there are, and
I said that today. I go, I think I chose the wrong path. I should have just stayed home and popped a few babies out, and you know,
yeah.
then I wouldn't have so much stress. You think
But
you're
I
doing good.
know, there's in the big book, it says alcoholics work hard and they play hard. And a lot of them do, where you give me something and put my focus on it, and something I'm interested in learning and I'll do it. Uh,
Do we have addictive personalities by chance?
yeah, maybe
Yeah,
that's we're
right.
addicted to
Because
doing.
yeah, I don't do anything. I do it 150%, or I don't do it at all.
Yeah.
So you can look at that as a good trait, but actually, it's an addictive. It's an addictive thing
Yeah.
because I go hard with anything. If I'm going to do a diet, well, I don't just diet. I go like freaking on. I go to the extreme.
Yep. I started doing yoga a few years ago. And what I do, I went to become a yoga teacher. I didn't
That's
just do
great,
yoga.
right?
Yeah.
Right? I
It's
know.
exactly the same thing. It's that. I've got a camping trip coming up this fall. What I do, I have got a pile of gear in my bedroom. It looks like I'm going to climb Mount Everest, but it's on for a camping trip. It's 110% whenever I get pointed in a direction.
Yeah.
And it really took that too when I decided to stop that when I was going to do this thing, getting sober, it took that same kind of focus for me
Mm,
to place that same kind of focus in the direction there too, because anything less was not getting me there.
yeah, no kidding. Well, I'm sure you have experienced that too. How many times did I say, not today, not tomorrow? I'm going to quit Monday.
Yep.
I got this. Like, how hard is this? I can do this. I've done this before for diets, for short term and it's funny, but I can't wait until I can have that drink again. Right. And then once you get into it, you
Off
know,
you are.
yeah, because I mean, there's healthy drinking. There's nothing wrong with drinking if you do it appropriately. And I can even tell you right now, appropriately would be 1 to 2 drinks, maybe, right? A week, they say. I wouldn't even bother. What the hell? What? A week, that would happen in the next 15
Right.
minutes.
Yeah. That would happen between work and home.
If I couldn't drink, I wouldn't even bother having one, you
Yeah.
know? And if, oh, it was bad. I was bad. But I didn't realize it until much, much, much later when
Yeah. We step over that line and it's way
it
behind us
was,
before we realize it.
yeah, yeah, I stepped over my line and I couldn't stop. And that's why I went for professional help
Yeah.
more so than that. And I think
We did.
that was probably the ballsiest thing I've ever done. And I've done some pretty ballsy things, but
How did drink, like, when do you remember did you start drinking early or?
yeah, actually, yeah, I skipped that part, didn't I? 15, not 12, 15, I remember. Um,
That's a bingo number. I mean, I've done, this would be episode 200 and something. And 14, 15-year-old is first drink time, probably 80% of the people on the podcast, 14 or 15.
yeah. And when I say it, because I never thought about it before until these recent years, right? When I was writing about it. Um, wow, 15.
Yeah.
Right. And I know my kids probably drank when they were 15 too. Like who doesn't? Everybody, ooh,
Experiment.
yeah, but not as an alcoholic 15-year-old, as a teenager, like
Yep.
it's
I
what.
thought that's what I was doing. Actually, I am sitting at the very table that I live in the home that I grew up in, and some of the furniture is the same. And we had a snow day, and a buddy of mine called me up and said, "Hey, your mom and dad work all day, don't they?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "How about me and Tracy come over, and he'll bring some beer, and we'll drink some beer over at your house." And they came over, and I sat at this very table that I'm sitting at today, and it was fun for a minute. I remember that it was fun, and I had a few beers and we sit here. I say we sit here like adults, you know, 14, 15, 14 years old. And then I don't remember another thing until my mom was waking me up in bed because I got sick and threw up, and my buddies cleaned up after me and disposed of all the evidence and cleaned up the house and got the hell out of here and put me to bed. And I remember thinking as I woke up, I'll never do that again. And it didn't take very long before I was calling him up, going, "When are we going to do that again?"
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did you get your first? How was, most people remember them first drinks. Do you recall it?
I remember having parties at my house, but or going. My mother went away for 2 weekends in a row, and that was when I had my only two parties at my house, and the police came to the second one because
Mm,
somebody fell off the balcony
nice.
of my second floor apartment. But he also, we don't believe he fell. We think because he was an attention getter. But yeah, that was the only parties I went to. And other than that, I don't even remember who bought it for us because you're right, we were underage, but we got it.
Yeah, that buddy of mine, Tracy, was one. I always say too that it seems like everybody had a friend in the eighth grade or so that he had a full beard, in the eighth grade. He looked like he was 30 to me, and
But
I
I
went to
think
school with him since the first grade.
it was easier then too,
It
though,
was
right? Like
easier.
I was getting into bars at 16, and so
Yep.
were all my friends. They never carded you, like,
Yep.
so
And we always
that
knew the stores that would serve you too. You
yeah,
could go where it was around town. It was the rumor. You knew where you could go to get served, and you knew where not to go to.
exactly. So that is, yeah, I know it was 15, and then it just went from there. I didn't, obviously, I just thought I was a regular kid like everyone else,
Yep.
who drank, and we drank on the weekends or what we did, until there was a few incidents where my drinking, led me to, like, you just freaked me out when you said bingo. That's the number when I said 15, because exactly when I said that, it reminded me of one of the stories that I remember of how when you're drinking, like whenever I've been drinking, things happen, like bad things. Like I'll lose my $300 sunglasses, which, like, who has $300 sunglasses? It's my only pair and I lose them. Um, I'll do things that are uncharacteristic that I would wake up the next day and go, oh my God, I feel awful, because that's not something I would do if I was sober. Um, I went to the bingo because you could go. I was either 15 or 16, and I was drunk because I drank before I went to the bingo with my mom. and I missed a big giant jackpot because I missed a number because I was drinking. So stuff like
You're
that. Do you know what
fine.
I mean?
Shit like
Like,
that happens while you're drinking. It does. And it just,
yes.
we kind of like we
And then
chalk it up to bad luck, well, damn the luck, uh,
well, I always knew it was because I was drinking, and then that was stupid. And I should not drink that much, that I should allow something like that to happen. But I kept doing it. Like I'm telling you, man,
that's the
I,
disease.
as an adult, I have woken up on the floor beside a toilet at a venue with 500 people because I've drank too much and I couldn't get out of the bathroom stall because I'm done. I'm done. I can't move. I need help. I got nobody to help me. And so I just go, I'm just going to have a nap here on the floor in a public bathroom. And
Yep.
then I wake up and the place is empty because they've closed down and nobody's noticed me there. Well, I know people noticed me there. All the women who came in there. It was a huge event, but it was a drink up, right? Everybody was toasted, but I did what I did. You know what I mean? And then
Yep.
trying to get myself in a cab and get to my girlfriend's house where I'm supposed to be sleeping, and she had no idea where I went. But just shows nobody tried to help me. Nobody tried to wake me up. And this was a police event, tried to help me or wake me up or go, hey, that chick is sleeping on the floor of a dirty bathroom.
You're all supposed to be taking care of one another.
Yeah. Um, and then, but I go do it again, right? I don't fall asleep on the floor again, but it's one of another, it might seem, it doesn't seem trivial to me. I feel pathetic is the word
Yeah.
that happened. And I wasn't 25 years old when it happened. You know, I was like 30, 30, 32, 33 years old, right? Like, yeah, I know better. Stuff doesn't, you shouldn't be doing that stuff. But it would happen. And the constant denominator was alcohol.
Yep.
Or I'm not going to lie, sleeping with people I would never ever sleep with.
Yep.
Your inhibitions get down. You do things that you wouldn't do.
Yep.
The word whore comes to my mind, and that's because of me. I wasn't sleeping with every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but if I had a one-off, you know, I wouldn't have done that if I was sober.
Yeah.
And I know I'm not alone in that either. I'm just one to say it out loud, but it's part of the journey. So stuff like that. Or God, I mean, I was never a nasty drunk. I was always, I liked it because it made all of my worries go away, and I was able to almost be somebody that I wasn't, because I
Right.
became very animated and not shy, and you know
Here for that social
hmm,
anxiety, and I certainly remember that as we recall back, that, like the proverbial, I was able to ask the girls to dance at the dance, if I had a little booze in me, but sober, it ain't happening. So, I found out this like it was a magic. It seemed like the magic key, but I, like you, tended to overshoot the mark. And my friends were waking me up out of my seat at the concert because I passed out, or we're at a bar and I'm out sleeping, leaning against the
oh,
car. So hopefully they would, pull me up into the car when it was time to go home. Just time and time again, go to parties and they find me asleep back in somebody's bedroom because I overshot the mark again.
I think that was one of the last things that happened to me. That I was done. I met a girlfriend, went to a bar. She left me with one of her girlfriends, which was fine. And me and that other girlfriend were going to go down to another bar. And again, this is like 3 years ago. I'm not a kid. And I was going to meet my daughter there because she was going to be there. So my daughter at that time would have been 20, right? And said, Mom, can you save me a seat? Because me and blah, blah, blah are going to come down there, right? And we'll meet you there. So we leave the one bar and I pounded, of course, right? Because we only have 2 hours to drink. And I've got to drink everything I can. Well, I didn't even make it out of the parking lot, out of the next bar. And I just met this woman who drove me there. And I said, I can't get out of your car. Like, I can't move. right? Literally. And she said, okay. And she gave me an emergency blanket, threw it up because she was an alcoholic too. I shouldn't have gotten her car, but whatever, right? Because you're not thinking properly in that way either. And she left me in the parking lot in her car, but I didn't know where I was. So I knew that I'm like, so I passed out. I woke up. My daughter is like trying to get me. I couldn't even see the phone, right? You're doing this,
Yeah.
right? You can't see. Finally, I could get myself together enough to, I don't even know if I called her or text her. And she's like, what do you mean you're passed out in a car? Like, where are you?
What?
And I'm like, I don't know where I am. I'm somewhere in the vicinity, but I honestly don't know. And I'm too sick to like look, like I can't, right? Until then I waited. So she stayed in the bar. I waited another couple of hours until I felt better that I could get out. I said, okay, now I know where I am. I'll meet you at the front of the bar because she's going to take me home. And to have my daughter, like that was the first time I needed help walking. Like she was guiding me.
Hmm.
And I know that's not a huge deal, but you know, I don't deserve to go to jail for that. But that didn't sit well with me. I was embarrassed, and but that was like one of the little things that that well, you know what I'm saying, right? It was
Yeah.
almost like
Just keep on getting
I
chopped
was
down,
like,
you know.
yeah, I was like,
Self-esteem
Tim, you
gets
might.
whittled around and it gets whittled away and whittled away and whittled away till we don't, feel so bad about ourselves that basically, I mean, I got to a point where I didn't know, I didn't know if I deserved to, be living. I couldn't get anything right, just time after time. I kept screwing up and whittling away at my own self-esteem till I felt like I was 2 inches tall, and it's a horrible, it's a horrible thing.
It is, and yet, yeah. I mean, I didn't know, I didn't see it as a disease either, even up to that point. I just saw it as me being a failure and me not being able to control myself. Now,
Willpower.
right now, although I drank throughout my years. You know, I wouldn't have never called myself an alcoholic, believe it or not. Jokingly I would, right? I never drank at work, I never drank before work, I never, but that doesn't
You
matter, I
too.
know that now. Yeah. um until I learned what an alcoholic is, until I had an incident at work. So 2 years ago in July 2018, there was a major critical incident that occurred in Toronto, and I happened to be on that call. And it was like the straw that broke the camel's back in my policing world, in my mental health world. A few years before that incident happened, I was not having a good time of life, I guess. Like I was, my brain felt very scattered, and I was getting overwhelmed, and I actually, and I couldn't remember that. I actually thought I was getting early dementia or something, honest to God, right? So but I went to go see a psychologist to tell her I think I'm losing my mind, you know. Um, and she knew what I did for a living, and she had helped me through. I'd never seen her about PTSD or any work related stuff. I'd only seen her, and I didn't have a diagnosis. I'd only seen her for helping me with marital or relationships or stuff, right? So she was the only person I knew to go see. So I went to go see her, and I liked that she had a history on me or knew a little bit about me as a person. So she said, Kim, I think that we should test you for PTSD. And I'm like, okay. So I did the test, like it's written tests and stuff, right? So I did the tests. And they came back, yes, I do. So, well, no shit, Sherlock, right? Like, of course, 28 years of policing in downtown Toronto at the roughest, divisions there were, except for the last one. That was not a rough division, but
Let alone your childhood.
yes. Well, yeah, but I never really counted that, like I
I know
just,
we don't want to. Our
you should
egos do
though.
not want
Yeah,
to
I
count
guess
that.
yeah, because it's like, well, other people have bad childhoods, right? Mine wasn't so bad. But that's what I do. I minimalize everything, right? Like I don't whine, I don't complain, because who wants to listen to me, right? Like frig, people would die to have what I have, right? Like that this is the perception of other people. but they don't know what's happening on the inside here. But anyway, so I go to see her. She tells me that. So I have the diagnosis now of PTSD, but I don't do anything about it. I'm supposed to see her on a regular basis. And we're very good avoiding, right? I don't want to talk about that stuff because that's really going to get me. I don't want to talk about why I'm upset secretly because I'm just a suppressor. I was doing that
Stuff
since
it.
I was a kid, man. You ain't going to drag nothing out of me.
Yep.
You're not getting me. So stuffy, right? And ignore, avoid. So I was very successful with that because there was nobody telling me I had to go see her until this incident happened in Toronto, and I went off the rails. And I went off the rails because my drinking went woohoo, right? To where I knew, okay, Kim. Okay.
After a specific incident, or was it an escalation?
Yes, there was it was like the straw that broke the camel's back is the best I could. I mean, I had 2 more years before I could retire. Like this wasn't supposed to happen. My life would be very different right now if that didn't happen. So I can only believe that this is where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. Yep.
Because again, I believe in my higher power, and that is God. And my gosh, like you, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. And again, I had a spiritual awakening, and that's what brought me to her after my incident. So I'm spiraling. I'm taking a lot of time off work. I can't not stop drinking every day, right? Like talking to myself. And I'm not a woman who's used to failing at stuff, right? Like I've been a single mom. I've made it happen. I've gotten promoted. I make a good buck. I got 2 beautiful daughters. I'm on top of them. Like,
Yep.
so I mean,
Everything I'd set my mind at, I achieved every single thing. There was nothing I couldn't conquer, really. If I said I wanted to do this or I wanted to do that, I could do it, but I could not stop drinking and
yes,
doping for me. Both.
yes. Now, so you understand, right? It's like, what's the matter with me? Something as easy as drinking.
Yep.
But every day it wouldn't matter. Oh, hey, I stubbed my toe. Oh, I need a drink to get over that. Oh, you celebrating something? Let's go drink. Oh, it's noon. It's time to drink somewhere.
Yep.
Like,
Yep. It was. I just could not do it. I had, I had held a job for 20 something years. I had progressed up the ranks, like you said, was making good money, had a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful kids, 2-car garage and a car on each side. And everything, from the outside, if you looked, everything was okay. But on the inside, nope.
right?
And I couldn't let anybody see that. I could not allow anybody to look at that.
No, because people probably looked up to you. They thought they like I've had people come up to me at work before this and go, we're the same age and look at what you've accomplished, and I wish I was in your shoes and this and that. And then to admit defeat. And you're right, it's ego, man. It was complete ego.
Yep. The guys at work wanted to be on my team, it was, and everybody would tell me what a good guy I was. But I knew none of that was true.
No. See, that's the problem. It was true. It didn't make you not a good guy because you drank, right? We just had a disease.
Yep.
Honestly. And
well, that thing of like, if these people really knew what I'm up to, they wouldn't think that about me. And I really did that. Because there's after a certain amount of time, I started being real sneaky about it. And I found drugs that helped me to not overshoot the mark anymore either. So I could take drugs that would keep me up or keep me okay. And I wasn't passing out places anymore. So I was able, what I say is it hyper accelerated my alcoholism, because now I can drink like crazy and never even have any, I could stay up to midnight with everybody. I can get up in the morning and pop a couple pills and get moving. And things went downhill fast after that, and once that happened.
Yes. Once you start adding stuff to the mix, and
it's like amateur chemistry is what I say, and I try to get, and I still would overshoot the marks and stuff here and there, but I was getting a lot better at it because I knew the formula most of the time, a couple of these and a couple of those. And if I could keep my balance going, man, I could walk that line and walk that line and walk that line. And usually when I fell off of it, it would look like an isolated incident. It didn't look like this thing of falling over drunk all the time.
Right. Wow. 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 Yeah. Um,
So this psychiatrist or therapist started talking to you about.
yeah. So I started to, well, I didn't start to see her yet. So I got the diagnosis years before, but I didn't do anything about it. And then I have my incident that I know I'm sinking. I know my drinking is increasing, and I live alone. I lived alone because my daughters were in university and college at the time. So there was nobody to tell me I couldn't do nothing. And I had the cash. And I mean, you don't have to drive anywhere anymore. You can do whatever you want, right? Like, you don't have to drive to the liquor store. You can just have it delivered now.
That's
So,
only happened recently here.
oh no, well, we've had that here, dial a bottle. So anyways, but so I was doing, I call it shenanigans, and I wasn't like, I knew this isn't who I want to be. This isn't what I want to do. I was still going to work. So that happened in July, and now we're moving forward into November. And I had taken a couple of chunks off work because what did I do? I spent the whole time drinking, right? And then when I went back to work, I was supposed to, there was another promotional process that I had just spent since 2011 by going back to school. I did college, I did my university BA, and I got my master's. Took me from 2011 to 2018. My last course was finishing the month of the incident that I had, and I almost didn't do it because, I mean, I was a mess. I was crying, like, even though it was pre-Zoom now with COVID, but we had Zoom going on because with the teacher, and then I was like bawling. I was like, I was a mess from the word go, but I just kept, you know, digging underneath and hiding myself, and not a lot, like thinking it was gonna wear off, really, because out of all the other times I've had shit happen at work, and I've seen some bad stuff. Um, it goes.
This too shall pass.
Well, there's a couple that never passed. They're like forefront, because they were really, really, really bad. But yeah, the majority of it, yeah.
I mean, you just have hope.
So I was waiting for it to pass, right?
You
But
have hope that it will. I mean, that's really all you got, is to hope that this
that's
is going to get better. This is going to
and
blow over.
I'll get somewhat better, tolerable drinking, this and that. So it didn't happen. I was supposed to put in my paperwork to do the next promotion, which, like I said, I just finished. You know how much schooling that was, part-time, while being
Yeah,
a mom, and I had to pay for my master's. Like, I don't have that money, but I did it with that, and I would have gotten it, but I couldn't even put the paperwork in to apply, because I knew what the process entails, right? Because it's stressful, it's this and that. But 4 months ago, I was good to go. Now, I knew I was aft. My mental health was not of which I could take on that.
Yeah.
So, and these things don't come up often. If you pass up, like, that was it, right? Like 2 years, right? And by that time, I was supposed to retire. So if I'd done that, I would have stayed longer in my career, right? So I didn't do that. So then I'm like, okay, Kim. So I drive home, and I wasn't beating myself up. I was just like, okay, well, what was that all about now? Now what are you going to do, right? Like, what is your next step? And I'm telling you, he answers your things, right? So I got a call from work, and they said, because they saw my paperwork and my sick time, and they said, have you seen a doctor? And I was like, no. And they said, we highly suggest you do. So I was like, okay. So I called my psychologist again, and it took a month to get in to see her. So I saw her on December, I think it was the 12th, but it might be the 4th. It doesn't matter. Within 15 minutes of seeing her, she said, you're not going back to work until I tell you you are. And I was like, what? I was not expecting that. I've not worked since I was 13. I've had a job to be told you're not working, right? Like some people might go party. I wasn't like that. I was like, you've just taken like,
The only
what?
thing I have.
Yeah. And I had a great job. My freaking job, because the higher up you go, the easier it gets, the more responsibility. But really, like the people who should be making more money are these guys who are working their asses off underneath me, right? But yeah, I get to take the fall, so I have to. But I was making fantastic money. I did love my job. It was the best out of my whole 28 career. I was a staff sergeant. I had it made. And I put myself there so I didn't have to see the shit firsthand anymore. Like I knew, right? Coming into the home stretch, and if I could make it one more promotion, then that's what I'm going to do. And then get even farther removed from the crap, because I supervised a platoon, 3 sergeants, 14 officers that were primary response, meaning they're the ones you call 911. You need help, like that's who's coming. So that's one of my teams. Well, even though they're the ones that are seeing it, I'm listening to the radio, I'm monitoring them, I'm seeing the calls that they're on, I'm seeing the
Yeah,
arrested parties
not
that bring in the
insulated from it, but
exactly. Yeah, the people in the front desk. Like I'm still exposed, but certainly not how I used to be when I was in uniform and stuff. Um, so I remember, so this is in between while they told me to go see the doctor. Oh, and then I went and saw her and she tells me you're not going to work. And I'm like, okay. So I have to go see
oh
her
wow.
once a week. Yeah, she has this power. So I didn't
I
go
know,
back.
but I mean, under what diagnosis that you're not going
Oh,
back to work?
re-traumatizing myself, realizing that I
Right.
need help for post-traumatic stress disorder,
Yep.
anxiety, and not re-traumatizing myself. Obviously can't put me there because it could happen again, right?
Yep.
It was a rare thing that even happened to me, that I would have been called out to this call. Like that shouldn't have happened. That's why I got the desk job, to sit my ass in the seat so
Yep.
I didn't have to go out there anymore and see this shit. But there was a lot of gun violence that summer. So the chief requested, when you were on a midnight shift, right? On the weekend that you're working a midnight shift, which happened every 5 weeks, which is only going to happen twice in the summer. And it was the July 23rd weekend that this happened. And it was our last night, which always happens. So it was the last day of 7, and we're on a midnight shift. We were working an 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift. He wanted staff sergeants, and the officers all in the high crime area where the gang shootings, all that kind of stuff was. So that was our detail that night. Instead of doing our regular stuff, that's what we were doing. So unregular that my rank would be doing that with them,
Hmm.
right? But me being me, I'm not going to take the weekend off. I'm going to be with my guys. I should have taken the weekend off. So I didn't. And it was the Sunday night, the last night. That's when everything always happens. So the 7th night of our night shift, it was, we started, like I said, at 8. I was in a car by myself because I'm the boss. I went and got my sub. I'm sitting in the high crime area, but there's nothing happening. It was boring as everybody's in their apartments because they know the cops are out there. So they're not out. Just finished eating my sandwich, and then comes over a citywide assist um, for a massive casualty shooting. And it wasn't in our division. It was in another division, another area of the city, but that
Hmm.
hence the citywide assist, because they don't have enough
Yeah.
officers
Yeah.
to attend to take care of what's gone on. So we got dispatched. I guess we were the closest alternate unit out there. So, and I know this area. Oh, that doesn't help either. Ha! I grew up in this area, right? That's where I grew up. I took my kids there. I would meet my friends there for drinks. I knew, like, this was a shooting where somebody took a gun and started shooting at every bar that was patio on the street
Yeah.
for a 3-block radius,
Wow.
shooting all the women that he could because he had a problem with women.
Apparently.
Anyhow, yeah. So it was that. right? And we got there within 15 minutes of that call coming over. So because I knew the area, I took the top end. And the way I say top end is you could take two exits off the highway, right? The top end or the south end. I took the top end because I knew the area and that's where I wanted to come in on, right? And my team all came in from the south end. So we didn't land at the same spot when we got there, you know. I was by myself. And from the moment I went through the police tape, like I didn't know what to expect. But I left myself. I just left my body. It was the weirdest thing. And it's not weird. It's happened to many, many other people, but that's what happened to me. And I describe it all. And it was an out of body experience. So on top of that, what I was on the critical incident response team. Adding insult to injury, it was a volunteer position that I'd been on for I think 3 or 4 years. So you're on call, either you're on duty or off duty, but you're on call numerous times a year. And if there's a major incident in the city, you will be called out to attend with another person trained like me in critical incidents, maybe with a psychologist as well or a therapist, to ensure that the officers know where to get help if they need help because they've just experienced something horrible, right? So this was one of those, and I happened to be on call as well. Now my officers were all there, so I was going to come back to them and talk to them and make, because they have me. So I was detailed to go to all the hospitals where all the victims were from the shooting. But the purpose was to talk to the officers who were first there on scene dealing with them, right? Because by the time we got there, there was still some stragglers, but obviously ambulance got there real fast, and people were already transported to the hospitals with those officers. So that was what my position turned into after being at that scene for a couple of hours. So now I was detailed to go with a therapist and another officer who I did happen to know. And we went to 5 different hospitals downtown. And in the process, we're running into officers, of course, that we were looking for, families of victims that we weren't looking for. But of course, the hospitals were lined, right? Because there's only 5 freaking hospitals, right, that they could be at. And you have numerous people that are hurt. One father was being transferred from one hospital to 6 kids because they were going to tell him that his dad or that his daughter died. He jumped in the way to try and take the bullet for her, right? And meanwhile, he got shot. So that's why he was at a different hospital. She's at Sick Kids Hospital, but she didn't make it. The mother and grand. So, you know what I mean? Like this stuff, it was just crazy. And then horrible. The one girl who was older that I'm not sure if this is if she made it or if she didn't make it, but we went into ICU to talk to 2 officers that was with another victim. So this was, I think, a 17-year-old girl that had been shot. So she was in ICU. So I'm talking to the officers, and I turn, because I don't know if you've been in an ICU, right? They have little chairs outside, and it's kind of, everybody's got their own kind of room, but It's open, like, windows. So when I looked over, I had a complete flashback to Jane Creba, who you wouldn't know because you're American, but Jane Creba was a little girl. She was 15 years old on Boxing Day, went shopping with her older sister down at the Eaton Center, which you probably have heard of in Toronto downtown. No? Okay. So it's the place to be, the big mall downtown Toronto. They were going there shopping for Boxing Day, and they were in the HMV, the record store.
Yeah.
Like Sam the Record Man.
Yeah.
And she had to pee, and they don't have a bathroom there. So she went down, left her sister there, said, I'm just going to go across the street to Foot Locker to use the bathroom. And her and 2 other people got caught in a crossfire gang shooting. And she got shot in the chest twice, I think. And anyway, she died on scene. 2 other people got shot that survived. Anyways, that's what they reminded me of. Looking over, because
you were on that case.
Yeah, I was. I had to take pictures of her before her parents came in and identified her body. So seeing that girl in the, because that's where I did it, in the hospital bed, it just reminded me. And then so this was all going on too. So as soon as I got home, needless to say, that morning, that's when I started drinking, right? I don't even know how long I stayed up or what, but it's too much for one person.
Yeah.
And getting, so anyways, moving forward with the story, I go home, and I'm sinking, right? I make the appointment with the doctor. I'm seeing the doctor once a week, but what am I doing? I'm going to see her purposely at 10 o'clock in the morning so that I can hit the liquor store on the way home. And then she kept bothering me to see a addictions counselor. She goes, because I don't do addictions, Kim. Of course, I put that off for weeks and weeks until I did, and I was glad. Of course, I'm glad of everything after you kick and scream, right? That
Yeah.
you don't want to do these things. Because I got hooked up with a beautiful woman. But again, with her, I would make the appointments early so I can hit the liquor store on the way home. And then my psychologist knew that, and she goes, Kim, I didn't tell you to be off work so you could drink all day. I go, what do you want me to do? Now you've taken it. I don't have to go to work. What am I supposed to do all day? Right? Like now I have addictions problems, and now you've given me
Yeah,
all the
you've just
time in my
freed up
day.
my entire schedule.
That's right. Right. Um, and because I'm getting paid, it's not like I have to worry about working or, making up for not working, because WSIB approved me. Like it was like this, every time they called, I'd start crying and I didn't do it on purpose. It was just too much. Like the whole thing was just so much. And I was by myself, and I didn't want to bring my kids into it because it's not their problem, because I know they love me so much, and then don't want to bring them any hardship, right? And I'm the mom. I'm supposed to be the strong one that they rely on. So what happened? So then I think so December, right? We're now into January. I'm sitting on my couch where I always sat. I got rid of that couch and the house as well, because it's just too much memories, like that's when I looked at that couch in that house, it reminded me of drinking. And I just, even though I love that house, it's time to move on to better things. But I was sitting there going, I can't do this. I can't stop. I can't do it. And I looked up and I said, God, and I've talked to God over the years, but I haven't, I never asked him to help me. I always asked him to watch over all these people, I go through but I know I never did. I said, I need help. I need you to help me get through this. And I knew right away that I had to go to a rehab. That was it. There was no other way that this was going to happen unless Kim had rules, Kim had oversight, Kim things Kim didn't want, but Kim had to do. Yeah. Otherwise, Kim was going to be dead on the couch like her dad. Because that's what's going to happen, because I'm not immune to, I had a fatty liver. I knew that much, right? Which scared the crap out of me because my dad had cirrhosis of the liver. And I thought, oh my God, it's starting already. I'm in trouble. But mostly I didn't like that I didn't have control in what was happening, So the next time I saw her the next week, I brought it up and she agreed. She was really surprised, because I'm sure there aren't many people. There are people that kick and scream when they're recommended to go to this place. And I'm saying I need to go. So it was for a 8-week program, because it's 5 weeks. So addictions medicine with 3 weeks trauma added to it. So it was an 8-week program. I had to go live there. So I had to pick up everything and go. And I had no idea what a rehab would be. I had no idea the people that I would meet or who or where they came from or anything. You only know from Sandra Bullock in her movie 30 Days or something, whatever it's called.
Which I would never watch those kind of movies. I steered as clear away from any kind of movies that had to do with that as I could. And I know I wasn't doing it on purpose. But I think the disease kind of was, I say this thing kind of hijacks your operating system, where, you're not in control of yourself anymore. I think I'm driving the show, but I'm not really. And I'm doing stuff that's contrary to my character, and and it's doing things that's real weird, like that, like don't look over there because that's a story about somebody getting sober, and you ain't don't look at that. Uh, it run me out of some meetings and stuff. I now know that cops resentments about certain meetings early on because I knew. Now I know. I didn't know then, but I knew that the disease knew that was not a good place for me to be, because if I stayed there, he might lose. So
Mm.
he got me out of that. I
Good.
talk about this little guy on my left shoulder, like the angel and the devil's on the shoulder kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I felt that too. I
Yeah.
know.
But you, did you know anybody had been in rehab or anything like that? Did you, or was the therapist or anybody like that? I mean, it really just came to you like a random thought.
I
You asked
swear to
God,
God.
and God put
Yeah,
that in your head. I
yeah,
believe
no,
that.
like
I believe it completely. I was just curious. I wanted to get to that point.
no, I did not know. Nobody recommended it. Nobody said anything, except I'd heard of it, right? Because
Yeah, in
but,
passing
but
kind of stuff.
oh no, yeah. Well, I'd heard of it because everybody knew about Homewood in the policing world, right? But it was Homewood. But I had no visual. Like I had no idea what it looked like. I even went online when they booked me in and I knew when I was going. And I was looking at something that was for the rich and famous. Homewood is a huge world-renowned mental institution, and for better lack of words, right? We
What
joke
is a
about
mental
it,
illness?
and it's got but it has all these different sections, and it's got eating disorders, right? People there for eating disorders, people there for addictions medicine, people there for post-traumatic stress, people there for cognitive behavioral things, like whatever. And then they even right at the beginning they had like where the police were bringing in people who were in crisis right at that moment that needed, instead of the hospital, I guess they bring
Yeah.
them in there to deal with the nurse. So yes, it had a little bit of everything, but at the same end it had a little bit of everybody, right? And I had no idea. I mean, there weren't that many police officers. There were a couple police officers, and they were talking about all from Canada, right? And I'm like, where the frig are all the emergency services people that should be here because we're all messed up,
Mhm.
But that just shows you, because nobody wants to admit it, because it's faux pas, it's embarrassing, it's whatever. But hell, I don't care. I'm not embarrassed. I was ashamed, and I felt guilt, and I'm sure you did when it all came out. Like when I was off work, actually, I didn't have it before. The minute she told me I wasn't going back to work, huh, everything came. Like I felt worse because of the guilt and shame and this and that, right?
Guilt, shame, and
What are
remorse.
people gonna say? What are people gonna think?
Yes.
but,
Yeah.
but the
I got
rehab, it
suspended
had
from
me.
work one time, and and I all I could think about was when I would go by, I failed a urine test, and all I could think about the whole time was going back. And when I went back, everybody thought I had taken time off. They thought I'd went on vacation. I thought they would all know what Dan was up to. And I walked back into work thinking, and they say, "How was Thailand? How was?" And I'm like, "It was good. It was good. It was
See?
fun."
Yeah, and
Uh,
that just gave you a ticket to keep doing what you were doing because
yep.
nobody knew. And that's the problem, right? It's almost like,
I just got better at it.
oh shit.
Better at hiding it.
I used to wish there was an intervention, or like I see on TV, they would come in and go, "We're just taking you now to go get
Yep.
help." Like honest to God, I didn't know who. Like there was nobody to do this.
I did one of them prayers one night, and or at some point, I hear her over and over because I can't make the chronology work out. Like if I would go back and say in 2000 such and such, I know a few of them, but like before 2014, I really don't have any idea when anything happened. But I do recall for sure one night haven't had enough, and knew I couldn't stop, and praying, God help me, help me. I don't know how to stop this. You're going to have to stop me because I don't know how to do it. And a couple nights later, I was driving home after work, and I stopped at a bar, and I got pulled over on the way home and got thrown in jail for the night and disappeared. I didn't come home from work that day. My mom, my wife and kids, and my wife's calling my parents asking if they heard from me. Da 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 da. And in the police car that night, I was told the cop, man, I prayed that something would happen to me, that something would stop me. And here it is. Thank you. Drunk and stupid, but like 2 or 3 days later, nah, that wasn't it. That that was a fluke. Pop open another one, and I don't think I stayed sober 3 days. And I asked for help, and I got help. but I didn't
You know
know how
what?
to take it.
Well, rock bottom, right? You weren't rock bottom.
Not yet. Well, I said every time I hit a bottom, I found a trap door.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I hit my rock bottom because I should have gotten help years and years and years and years and years before, right? But I didn't have anyone pushing me. And then this time it was me that pushed me. Obviously, I was the one who made the decision, but I know it was with the
Sort
Lord.
of.
I know it was. And so the big guy, so that happens, and then um I start to go back to church. Right? Like I always believed in God, but I never prayed every night. I never talked to him. I never had a relationship with him. Now I realize what
But you
that
said,
means, right?
you started going back to church. So at some point in your life, you had been going to
When
church.
I was a kid, my mom had me in Sunday school,
Okay.
but I never, as an adult, and I said this when I got baptized too. I said, I am ashamed to say I never came to, I always wanted to go to church on Sundays. I did, but I was too lazy to get up that early. God forbid on a Sunday. I'm not getting up to go to church for
Church is
9:30.
no fun hungover.
Well, yeah, that too. It's the day after Saturday. Why'd they have to do that? So I never went. And then it just became a non-issue. But then I started to go back again. But I had people. It was weird. You start to have people in your life that bring this back into you. Like when I went into the rehab, I met a gentleman who had a huge faith. His faith for God was huge, and he knew, and he taught me stuff, right? Like stuff that I didn't know and I appreciated. But I know he served a purpose in my life for a reason. He's no longer in my life, but he came in to bring me back into God, and I know that because that's why now he's gone. And he kept me sober after. If he had not been in my life at that time, I would have relapsed when I got out because I was not strong enough yet.
Yeah. My
You
listeners know.
can't undo what?
My listeners know. I call them Eskimos.
Eskimos?
Yeah, it comes from there's an old AA speaker, and my listeners have probably heard this 100 times, but Bob Earl was his name, and he tells this story because he talks about people that came into his life just like you're saying, these people that just come, and the next thing you know, you're standing there, and it's years later when you realize what the value of that person was, right? When you're there and for the definite, the time thereafter, you're not figuring that out. It's just somebody came in and out, and then you realize the relevance of it later on. So this joke goes like this. There's two guys sitting in a bar in Alaska. One was an atheist and one was a religious man. They got around to talking about the topic of God, and the atheist said, "I don't believe in your God." And the religious guy said, "Well, why not?" He said, "Well, I was out in the middle of a snowstorm out here and I was lost. It was a complete whiteout, and I was set for dead. There was no way I was escaping this thing. And I got down on my knees and I prayed for God to help me." And the religious man says, "Well, by God, you must believe then." And he said, "No, some goddamn Eskimo come by and brought me back to town." That's the Eskimos that
All
come
right.
by, and God sends these people through our lives, and they really are. It's like angels.
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately, well, I met him in rehab and he wound up relapsing, ironically.
And
And
interesting as you say, he had this giant faith in God, though,
uh-huh.
and I work with a lot of people, and they will tell me about this faith they have, but whatever faith they have is not sufficient enough to get them to be able to stop. That's not enough alone.
No, he was very, very, very sick, very, very sick. But I'm very thankful to him because he did help me. Because it was funny. Oh, and I also stayed in the rehab because while I was there, I was like, well, I'm here and I know they have a post-traumatic stress disorder program. I think I should probably stay and deal or try. I mean, you can't deal with it in 8 weeks, but I was very determined to help myself at this point. So I stayed. So I was there for 16 weeks altogether. And oh man, I was ready to come out when it was time. Like I was the last 2 weeks I was spinning, right? Because now I'm feeling, well, I felt great after the first 8 weeks. I didn't feel so great in the second because that was the hard stuff, right? They're not asking me about anything in the first half, really. It's all about you stopping drinking and understanding why you did and what alcoholism is and the disease. But the second time, I don't know what I was thinking. I knew they would be digging for stuff, but I thought maybe it would be easier because I was in a good mood because I was sober. Apparently you go on a cloud. You must have known. Have you
Right.
heard of
Yeah.
that? Yeah, you're on a cloud. And I literally
I
did, like,
mean, you
I
feel,
was feeling fantastic.
yeah, you feel so much better than you have in years, that stuff detoxes out of you, and you just feel
Oh,
good.
and they feed you 3 meals a
Yeah.
day. I wasn't eating, of course, right? Because who wants to cook? And then if you were eating, I was going out to restaurants with my girlfriends and I was drinking more than I was eating, like,
Yep.
but I was stopping eating. So I actually, and because I was my diet and booze, being a woman in my age, I had gained so much weight when they weighed me when I went into the rehab. I was as much as I was when I was pregnant with my second kid. So
Mhm.
it was the day I was in there because I was like, okay, well, I can't drink. I might as well start eating properly, start exercising while I'm here. And what was the other one? Yeah, just drinking water, right? Like making like that's my thing. And that's what I did. So May 13th is my sober date. May 13th, I started doing all those things and I lost 40 pounds. Not over the 4 months, but it came off probably around Christmas time. And I felt like $1,000,000, right? Then I decided I've sold my home. I'm going to move. I'm going to rent because my head was split. I couldn't even take care of my house anymore, right? Like came out of rehab. I just wanted no responsibility. Um, and then COVID. So we moved, right? I'm renting. And then COVID hit 2 weeks after we were in the new place.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you have mental health issues with your addictions that you just got over, but when that happens and then something like COVID happens, it ain't good, right? Like everybody turned to booze when COVID happened, pretty much, if they
I
weren't.
understand.
Yeah. Well, right. I was
Yeah.
tempted.
I had a really good program and it didn't even begin to derail me, but I saw that happen and I
Oh,
lost a lot of
shit.
friends.
Yeah. Because it never ended. And people were, then they're not at work or if they lost their job. And I get it, right? Because that's why I drank for any reason. But um, yes, it was bad because you see all the recycling bins filled with in my hometown, the sales at we call it's the LCBO for us, the liquor store, went up 60% during COVID. So I ate. I have not had one sip of drink. And now I wouldn't thank you for one. Like I'm really good. I'm so thankful. I can sit here. I just played golf this afternoon with a girlfriend, and she's so sweet. She said, "Oh, maybe like she wanted. It's natural after you play a game of golf. Let's have a beer, right?" And we're kind of new friends, and it hasn't come up yet. And I said, "I don't drink, right?" And she didn't. It wasn't nothing. She didn't make a big deal of it. She just said, "Oh, maybe then I shouldn't drink in front of you." I said, "Don't be, no, I'm past that. If
Mhm.
that was yeah, there was a time when I wouldn't accept invitations because I knew I wasn't going to be strong enough.
Yep.
But I'm really past that now. And I had a zero beer, you know. And when I have a zero beer, I swear to God, like I like the taste of beer. I did. I always like the taste of beer.
Is that
But
what
it's
you drank
that.
mostly?
Pardon?
Is that what you drank mostly?
No, zero beer is
No,
no
I know. No,
alcohol.
when you drank, did you
Oh,
drink
beer? I no wine.
wine? Okay.
Yeah, red wine.
Because I wouldn't even touch it. I wouldn't touch a zero beer. And beer was my thing. And there's just no way in hell that I would even touch it.
Well, now and then, honestly, I haven't had that many, right? Which is good. But I don't know. I like the taste of it. And if you're gonna have chicken wings and somebody's having a beer with you, yeah, I do. I like it. But I only have one or two. But the funny thing is, like, I went on a date, whatever, a couple of weeks ago, right? And the guy knows I don't drink, which some guys wouldn't like, you know. Anyways, he gets me the zero beer. And so, it's just like a date, if we were on a date and it's in your kitchen and you're giving me beers or whatever. Anyway, so it was like a regular date, except I'm drinking these near beers, which nobody would know they were near beers. Anyways, I'm telling you, a very short period of time, I look to my right and I've got 5 empty near beers cans, right? And I went, that is why I can't drink, because I would drink those just as fast if they were regular beer and it wouldn't matter. And that's what that's my MO. And I realized it. Like, it was just a reminder to go,
Mm-hmm.
for sure I would.
I've seen a lot of people jump from near beers to real beer, and that's one reason why I won't mess with it.
No, and I agree. They told us that in rehab, and they also said, do
They
not
said
use a
it's not
wine
necessarily
glass.
zero either,
No,
necessarily.
you're right. You're right. The one I am is, but I know what you're saying, but it hasn't. Like, I've been okay,
Yep.
but I mean, it's very sporadic. I didn't have to have it. I was going to have my water. But I also didn't want her to sit and, feel
Yep.
conscious either. And I enjoyed it. I had one, but you're right about it. They also taught us not to, because I thought, oh, when I get home, I'll have a wine glass, but I'll put my water into it so I could feel like I'm drinking wine. And they said, don't do that. Same idea of what you're saying.
Yep.
You get
Yep.
into that and I have never used a wine glass in my house since any of this.
I didn't drink things out of a can for like 4 years,
Oh,
just because of the can was a thing for me, and I just didn't, because I drank canned beer, and I
oh,
still right now, if somebody in the other end of the house pops a can, my ear hears that special. There's something that clicks. And if
yeah.
I hear that pop of a can go off, and now I do drink cans of stuff again now, but there's still a weird thing. I got addicted to pain pills too, and when I had the same thing happens when I hear a pill bottle rattle. And I don't care if it's aspirin or whatever. If I hear that rattle, that it talks to some piece inside of me that I know is dangerous for Dan.
Trigger,
Yep, it's just
trigger.
the moth flying too close to the flame, and
Yeah.
I was dating a girl not too long ago, and she had like had I don't know, some Tylenol in her purse or something, and she got it out. She said, "I'm gonna take a couple Tylenol," and she got it out, and she was sitting there rattling that thing, man, and I could feel, like, I was like, "Would you please stop that? that rattling pill bottle is not working for me."
So how'd the date go?
It went good.
Good.
It
Okay.
was good
So
for a
she
while,
wasn't.
but I do, and it's really wasn't the date thing that was the point. Is the point
No, I know.
that was strumming some string inside of me that I don't understand, and today I can identify it. I know what it is, and it takes a second, but it's stuff that takes me back to that, just like the popping of an aluminum can when they pop that open and you hear that sound, man. Yeah, I don't know how many thousands of beers I've drank like that over the years, but it's like Pavlov's dog thing. When the bell rings, the dog slobber, and when that can goes off, it lights something in me. And it's not like it's dangerous or anything anymore. And for the longest time, I protected my sobriety to a great extent. I was just to give you just a little bit. I ended up hooked on pain pills, and like some people, like my dad upstairs, he lives with me. If he has something go on, and he'd take one pain pill, he'll be on the couch the rest of the night sleeping. You give me one pain pill, and I'm cleaning house and raking leaves. It supercharges me, it energizes me,
Yeah.
and that's what I found that helped me put on top of my alcohol that kept me drinking. And
Right.
I started breaking in houses, stealing them. and
Yeah.
uh and I was this, I was a 45-year-old man with married, two kids, a job for 23 years at that point in time, a respected individual and all that, and at nighttime I'm slipping around doing what I'm doing, and I ended up getting caught. And I stood in front of the judge here in my hometown and told me I was going to prison for 6 to 20 years. Now, I look at it today and I'm like, probably that was scare stuff, and it worked. So I'm not going to question it. I think, well, thank you. But it did scare me. It scared me enough to where that I protected my recovery, because I didn't end up spending any time. And I did sit on a 3-year jail sentence for a long time and was trying to plead it down and plead it down and plead it down. And they said, and people, my friends would say, "Oh, don't worry, you only serve a year and a half." And I'm like, "Yeah, oh, yeah, you do that. You go serve it for me then." Uh, and So I had it in my head, whether or not any of this is true, it was good for me, that if I screwed up, I was going to prison, period. And I did not want, that was not an option for me. That just wasn't an option. I would have killed myself before I went to prison. And but that ended up being a really good thing, because my first 9 months I was on home incarceration for a year. So that safety me up some, although I'm fully capable of screwing that up too. Uh, but I didn't. I walked the line, and they ended up letting me off after 9 months, but it kept me from going to all these places when I was in my first year of sobriety, where going to a wedding reception, or going to the bachelor party, or going to the ball game, or going to all these places that we are, kind of end up going playing golf. I couldn't do any of that. So, I thought, nope, can't do it. And I was insulated from all those high risk situations until I was actually out of the woods and had worked the steps and was, frankly, I say, I was free after about 5 months of that, because I had worked the steps with my sponsor, and the obsession was lifted off of me.
Good.
But I still insulated my sobriety like that. I just said no. When people was having wedding reception, I just said, no, I'm gonna pass. I don't care who you are. I'll send you a gift. But I'm not going there, because
You knew.
I pulled up on the shores of recovery and burned my boat, and I am not going back to what I used to have. I'm not going back there.
Right. Well, at least we know that. Well, the biggest thing that I learned in rehab is they said, play the tape forward.
Yep.
In my throat. And that's what I do all the time. And it hasn't been that I've been in that situation where I'm like, ooh, I want in the beginnings, yes, but not now. Now I don't crave a drink. But that helped me a lot when it said play the tape forward, because you know what's going to happen. There's no such thing as one.
Yep.
It'll be to oblivion.
There'd be times I'd come home from a meeting, because on home incarceration, they let me go to meetings. They let me go to work, and they let me take my kids to where they needed to be, like dance and scouts and stuff like that. Of course, every time I went there, I had to get the scoutmaster to sign a piece of paper saying I was there, and I had to get my meeting card signed. And everywhere I went, I had to get verifications to prove that I was really going where I was going. And once a week, I had to go in and turn these things in, and they verified against the schedule I turned in last week. Did I go everywhere I said I was going to go? And did I have signatures proving it? I had to have verifications for everything. And there were still nights that I was leaving a meeting, coming home, thinking that, you know what, man, I could stop and just get like a 6-pack on the way home. And thinking forward, how far I would get is that I had an ankle bracelet on my ankle that when I got home, it talked to this device in my house, a breathalyzer, and it let that breathalyzer know that when I got home to call for me. And I would have to go to that breathalyzer and blow in that breathalyzer. And that was like thinking the drink forward sometimes. And I knew that was only going to be in 10 minutes. I had to be home. They knew where I was at. They knew my schedule and all that. So, but I mean, that's how crazy it was, is, that I know 10 minutes later, I'm going to be blowing in a breathalyzer. But for a moment, I forgot that. For a moment, leaving a damn AA meeting, I thought maybe a beer would be a bad idea. I could get just a few. I won't get
just one, right? Yeah, there's another.
But I'd have to leave the car and run upstairs to get to the breathalyzer, because it's going off. And if you missed one, you're in trouble just as bad as if you failed one. And it would call for me multiple times a day. It would get me first thing in the morning, it'd get me last thing in the evening, and I'd be home on a weekend, and it would get me 6-7 times a day. That thing would go off, and I'd have to go blow in this machine, prove I was not drinking.
I don't know that we have that here in Canada.
You have the interlocks, right, on cars? You have that?
Yeah, we have that, but
basically the same thing, but they, for whatever reason, and I don't know anybody else. I do not know anybody else that's got what I got. I really don't. I don't know anybody else that's had one of the breathalyzers in their house that did that.
No, me neither. That's the first I've heard of it.
You take your picture and took your picture and sent your blood alcohol content down to the downtown, and sent a report in. And that big flash, I would close my eyes because it had that flash on it that would just blind you. I mean, then I started playing with it after a while. I put on a different hat every time I'd blow in it. And But by that time I was free. I really was. And by free, I mean, I had worked the steps and I was free from this disease. I was over the ledge with it. I could have fun with it. I really wasn't worried about getting in trouble anymore. I wasn't going to get in trouble by accident. I knew I wasn't going to get in trouble on purpose. I was a little bit afraid that I'd do something I wasn't supposed to do and didn't know it, that I'd get in trouble by accident.
Yeah.
I didn't drink pickle juice, and I didn't use mouthwash, and I didn't do, I didn't do anything that would even begin to put the hint of something that looked like alcohol into that breathalyzer. So when you got home from rehab, and I don't know if I heard you say this, but you said you ate. Are you meaning like, did you transfer to eating?
No, I was good, right? Because I continued to exercise and lose weight.
Okay.
And then that relationship with the person that I'd met in the rehab ended.
So that was a relationship.
Oh yeah, it was a relationship.
Yeah, we say that's like going shopping.
I broke the cardinal rule, right? I make a joke of it. I still have the plant though. I have a plant that's living over a year now. I've kept that alive. I don't have a dog, but yeah, I got in a relationship in rehab, so it ended the way that you would expect it to end.
Yep. It's like going shopping for a car in a junkyard.
Oh, come on. But I mean, there's a reason why there are rules, right? But here, you want to hear something wicked? And I tell you, this is not this is every ounce of me is the truth. Okay. So I'm at rehab, right? I'm in my room. You have a roommate. I'm in my room and, I hung around. I started towards the end hanging around they were like, 3 other police officers and then a couple of others, like, how people kind of group off. Right. So I started and so I'm the only chick. I was the only police female officer there. So started hanging around with them. So it's one of these gentlemen, right, that I wound up having a relationship with. I swear to God, before it happened, I swear to God, I'm in the room and I hear it's God. I know God says, tomorrow morning during the morning walk, I want you to go ask blah, blah, blah out. I've never asked a man out in my entire life, right? But I'm like, okay. So with so much confidence, right? You'd usually get nervous when like you said, going to ask a girl, you need some liquid courage. So here I am, never asking a man out in my life, and we're on the walk, and I'm like, okay, God, I'm gonna do what you say. It wasn't a bad looking guy, right? And I thought he was fun in his personality, but so I asked him out for when we got out of rehab. That didn't work. So we started seeing each other while we were in rehab. But that's how it makes sense to me. I know God did that and put him in my life, because I swear to you, if when I came back home after that, because he came with me to my home and stayed with me, he kept me sober. He did. I swear to God. We went to BC about 2 weeks after after I got out of rehab, because he had finished earlier, because he'd resided there, so we had to go back there for something. Now imagine now, so we're in BC for like, I don't know, a week. So what do? You go to restaurants, right? You have to eat. You go out. I couldn't believe how aware I was of everything circulating around alcohol. Right? As soon as you walk into a bar, big lists of booze or the drink menus are already on the table.
Start you out with a drink?
Exactly. And the waitress comes over every time. Can I start you out with a drink? And it never, because I drank, right? I was like, where's the waitress? I need a drink when I drank. To being like, I felt saturated. I felt, wow, we live in a society where it's almost not cool to drink anymore. And we've just accepted this. And it's
not cool to not drink.
Yeah, except now I think it's really cool not to drink. Now it's weird, right? Things have just flipped. Now I come across, I don't look for people that don't drink, but they're coming into my life, the non-drinkers and Christians on top of it. I'm like, you're doing this, and they're becoming very good friends of mine. And the other people are like disappearing. and then those around me that did drink are stopping their drinking too. It's like, it's wonderful. It's not even an issue to me. I don't even think, like in the beginning, I thought, oh, people aren't going to invite me to parties. I'm not going to be any fun. They're not going to want me because I don't drink.
I didn't know how I was ever going to have any more fun.
Me too. Yeah. I told the doctor, honestly, he laughed at me. I remember before I went into the rehab, and I, honest to God, and I meant this, I said, I don't understand how you can have any fun or live life if you're not drinking.
Yep.
And he laughed at me, and I'm like, you're laughing, but I'm dead freaking serious, man, because I don't know. I have not been to any social events where I hadn't had a drink
Yep.
in, I don't even know how many years.
Yep. It's every alcoholic's worry. It's every alcoholic's worry how they are going to move forward in life. You think it's going to be, the fun is ended. Now it's going to be one of my big moments was going into the first AA meeting I went into in 2011, which is 4 years before my current sobriety date. But I did go in there and I got seeds planted and stuff as I thought I was going to walk in and see a bunch of down and out drunks and people who weren't having any fun and all that. And I walked into this thing that looked like a freaking party. People were laughing, they were hugging, they were, telling jokes, and, everybody was happy to see each other. And I was in my little hometown. I was scared to death I was going to walk in there and see somebody I knew. And man, I really was relieved that I didn't know any of them. But it really, I had a complete wrong perception of all this. And that's what that a big book says, that, we can't tell the true from the false, and that's what I mean about this, like this thing being like a parasite, like a computer virus. It completely had my system hijacked. And I really, I think about it. The honest truth is I don't feel like I matured as an adult until I was 45 years old and got sober. Everything prior to that seems childlike today.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because
I looked like an adult. I had a adult job and I was making babies and I was doing all this kind of stuff that looked like adult stuff, but inside, I was and I know there's like an arrested development thing that happens with it. Cause at some level, I know I'm still, I can revert back to that 14-year-old little kid that first started drinking, when I get scared or when I'm not using my program. And I see that now I'm down the road a bit from that now. I'll celebrate 7 years in January. But, those are tools that I get when I get an opportunity to help a lot of people and be able to point out, what this thing is really doing to them, and make some connections on this level, that because until somebody talks to you, right, until you had some people tell you straight, and say, hey, look, here's what's up. And I didn't want to believe them. Years later, I realized how right they were. I remember during the beginning, man, I had a guy tell me, he said, I remember these things over. I have a memory for stuff, and I don't know how it sticks. I guess it's just part of an intelligence gift, whatever, but there's certain things. And had a guy tell me after me stumbling around for a while, he said, Dan, I'm afraid that you're either going to be dead or in jail before you get this thing. And I didn't realize how close he had a crystal ball. Yeah. And that was 4 years before I got that potential sentence. So when you come, tell me after that, after you got out of the rehab and you dated with this guy for a while, and because it's really not that long ago now, right? I mean, you said did you go in there 19?
So that was the end of 19. Yeah. So that relationship was over in November of that year. And then I was getting stronger and stronger and stronger, but I was still off work and I was still seeing
a
psychologist. And then COVID hit and I'm in the new house renting. And for that whole year of 2020, I was just trying to keep my head above water mentally.
Yeah, man, it's a tough.
I was not. Yeah. I mean, nobody knew what was going on, what heads or tails, and whether I was going back to work, when I was going back to work, what was happening at work, what, like I'm renting. I've never rented for 25 years of my life. Now I'm renting a home. So that was playing on me too. Right. Anyways, got through that. And then, I was supposed to get baptized in the church because I had gone back to church, like I said, right, in February when when COVID hit, that February 2020.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't. So, but I'd done the work. I'd met with the pastor. I had the booklet. They at my church they have you do that, and then things were on hold. And then the church kind of opened up again where, so many people could come, masked, whatever. And he said, do you want to get baptized now? And that was November 2020. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. So I was the first COVID baby baptized in my church. And then my pastor got COVID 2 weeks later.
Mm.
Well, not for me, but it was, I swear. So within a week of that happening, I woke up, because every day I would wake up with anxiety, and I'd have to talk myself down. I have 32 positive sayings in my house to keep me, be kind to yourself. Like everything, the positives, like
Mm-hmm. Affirmations.
yeah, it was my recovery home. So I'm, and I gotta and then, so I woke up. So every morning I'd go through this thing, right? Like, and I would have bad days, good days, but the good days were not party, like, yay, it's so good. It was just tolerable, right? And that didn't have to do with the non-booze. I was okay with that, but it had to do with COVID and life and being isolated. And I was already isolating, but I was trying not to isolate. La la la. And are you going to get COVID, or who's dying? Who's whatever? So, you can understand that you feel it wasn't going very well. And I couldn't think, and I was overwhelmed. I couldn't even write, and my PTSD and the signs and symptoms too. I couldn't write an email without mistakes. If I emailed you, I would forget I emailed you 5 minutes later, and I email you again. I couldn't get it together. But I was giving myself a break. I wasn't being hard on myself. Then I get baptized, and boom, I wake up and I go, I have my brain back. I can think, I can retain, I didn't know, like, to the extent. All I knew is I felt really good, right? And I went downstairs and I grabbed my books, and I'm like, I need to learn. I need to sign up for a personal coaching course or something to help me, like, better to now that, like, that I can retain and feel it won't be over. And I did. Signed up for a personal coaching course. I did the course twice, and then I was asked to be an accountability leader to help out because I did so well. And from there, it's just gone like this. Like, I still have my days. Like this morning, I woke up and I've got anxiety, but I know the reasons why now, because I've had so many lessons and teachings from my psychologist. I can hear her voice go, okay, Kim, there's a reason why. Think as what's causing this, and then talk yourself. Like, I talk to myself a lot inside, right? I'm sure you do too, to just, if I'm having anxiety or I'm feeling overwhelmed.
I actually transferred that into not talking to myself, but talking to my higher power. That's the way I look at it now today when I'm talking that.
Very good. I never
I,
thought of that.
it is, I have completely transformed my self-talk to a discussion with my higher power.
That, and saying that, yes, that I mentioned before about that relationship with Jesus that I thought I had. I didn't even know what a relationship really meant, and now I know what it is truly meant to be, which at first I found very difficult because I'm like, I got to talk to him about everything that I do before I do it, and ask his opinion and ask for input. You know what I mean? And this is my Christian friend saying, yes, Kim, that's having a relationship with God. And I'm like, but I'm not married because I don't want to answer to anybody. And now I got to answer to him. Like, and I go, well, I want to, there was a point where I might have wanted to buy a blueberry farm with my girlfriends and her husband. Okay. And PEI. So he said, Kim, when big things like that come along, you've got to ask Jesus if it's good for you. And I go, Pete, Jesus has got 24 hours to give me an answer because I got to buy this farm. He goes, it doesn't work that way. I go, but it's Gotti, right? He goes, Kim, if you're meant to buy the farm, you'll get your answer. And if you're not, or if you are, it will extend. It won't be tomorrow that you need the answer. Somehow that answer won't be needed for a week. And God's not going to come down and go, sing on Blueberry Hill, the song. And then that's how like it will come, And so now I make a point. I do sometimes, I forget sometimes, right? To talk to him. I know that sounds awful, but I do. forget to go, hey, this is what's going on. Can you help me out? Direct me this way or that way. And he always, like, he does, it does. And it's not, like, he doesn't come down and say,
I
do
understand.
this.
No, it's an
Yeah,
intuition. There's a
it is.
big book
Yes.
says it
And it's,
becomes a working part of the mind that as we practice this thing, and that's why in 12 steps we say why my program is this practicing these principles. As I practice them, and it's not an overnight matter, as it also says in that book.
no,
This thing is
exactly.
this spiritual theory, this spiritual thing is a lifetime endeavor. It's
Yep.
not gonna, and the one thing I usually know pretty quickly is I know if it's not, like when the answer is no, I know that pretty quick. When I got something I want or whatever, there's something going on and I need an answer. No comes pretty quick. Yes does not necessarily come so quick.
Right.
When I
Which,
lean on my sponsor a lot in that regard, and I believe that when I'm talking to my sponsor and I have a guy in my life that I can talk about anything to, and I can bring him into the conversation. And what I say is that my sponsor never gives me my answers, but by speaking with him, I end up getting my answers. It's like a channel. It's
yeah,
another channel to higher power through somebody else, because I think that's the way, personally, I think that's the way God works. It works through other people. That's usually the way it happens.
absolutely he
I'm
does.
not getting a
Yeah.
burning bush kind of thing. Maybe some people, and I've had some pretty big miracles happen in my life since I've been sober. Some pretty, I mean, when that jail sentence changed from being 3 years incarcerated to home incarceration happened overnight. That was a miracle at that point in time, because it went from, the house I got caught breaking into is across the street from me. And they said, "No, are you crazy? We're not going to let you do home incarceration at that house, because you was breaking in that house and your whole neighborhood wants you to go to jail." And one day they changed their mind, and out of the blue, basically, I asked one more time, and there's just these other little things like that, and that this relate, because I think, I've kind of changed my mind about like a relationship, and I feel like I have a relationship with this higher power now. But what's more important to me is that I have this reliance on this higher power today, that I actually can rely on, that I will get an answer. I will be guided in the right direction as long as I'm patient enough to wait for the answer. So when things get hairy, um, it's going to work out, but it's going to be on God's time. It ain't going to be on Dan's time. Dan doesn't get to pick the timeline. What I
Right.
got to have is the faith to keep walking and doing the next right thing and doing the things that God puts in front of me and looking for. What I joke around about is like I feel like God puts little sticky notes in the paths where I walk, and my job is to find them. And then pick them up and take some action behind whatever they are. This podcast is one of them. Uh, if God throws a sponsee in front of me and a guy comes up and asks me to help him, and by God, it's my job to help him.
Yep.
And one day, God gave me the idea that I should have a men's retreat, because I got a piece of property out in the country, and I didn't think anybody would want to drive out there and come to it. And now it's a big thing every year. This was the 8th one I've held, and I'm not even been sober 6.5 years right now, and I've
Right.
held 8 of these men's retreats. So as long as I continue that reliance on that, I will be. He didn't bring me as far, drop me off. Right? That's another thing we say. You've survived a lot of stuff. You didn't survive this long for God just to say, "Okay, Kim, bus ride ends here. You're done. I'm not with you anymore." That's not the way it works. I'm here for the long haul.
Uh-huh. Did you find it was weird because I wasn't familiar with the 12 steps, right? Before I became familiar, because that was part of the programming at rehab, but I didn't know the first 3 steps, for instance, the wording, right? Until I got into rehab and started going to the meetings. But I found I had already surrendered myself to God and admitted that I had no control over it. Like I'd already done that when I sat on that couch and looked up to him, right? And in doing so, I know I let go. Like I let him take over.
Yeah, right.
And it's very hard to describe to people, like, what do you mean you're not making the decisions anymore? I go, honestly, I'm making things happen, but I'm not making the decisions. Do you get what I mean?
Right. Yeah. Because we have this grip on it. We think we have this grip on ourselves and on everything that's going on for so long, and there's some magic that happens. And that is through those first three kind of steps is that, uh, in my program, like with this, one of my pieces of that was, I just started doing everything this sponsor told me to do. I told Joe, says if he'd told me to pick a booger and put it on page 263 of the big book, the next time I saw him, there would be a booger in there, man. He asked me to do something. I just started doing it. And I turned my will, my life over to care of this man that had 30 something years of sobriety, hoping that he knew what he was doing. Because I didn't, it was obvious I wasn't running my life worth of shit.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
And I got this guy that's in my life today that, he's not really running my life, but because I'm staying in close contact with him and we're doing this thing called life together, uh, he's guiding me real well. And I joke around about this too, but when I watch him, I ain't too sure he knows what he's doing with his life either, but he's got a guy too. And that guy's helping him, but that surrender thing is so hard. People say, but I can tell when you're not surrendering. When the guys, when a guy or a gal is still, gripping tight and, there's a sixth sense that comes with this magic of this 12-step solution that was granted me, this gift I've received that it's like almost like having a crystal ball. It's like eating the one pill in the matrix, and you get the right one and all of a sudden I can see clearly today. And I know when somebody's got that grip on things and you tell them, you got to let go. You got to quit managing this thing and let go. And, but how do I do it? Well, that's actually what the 12 steps does to you. If you work them all the way out, you end up in a process that will make you let go of it. There's another little saying we say is that, when you were born, God gave you a backpack and it's shaped like a trash can. And every event that you've crossed over in your life, every event, every little thing that you happen to have happened to you, that you've witnessed, you've put it in that trash can. You can't help it. You're like a hard drive. You're going to retain everything that's happened to you. And before long, that trash can is full. And the problem is with somebody like me, it's full mostly of bad things, trauma, other kind of things. There's some good in there, but there's a lot of bad in there too. And, a lot of shame, a lot of things I did I wasn't proud of, I didn't want anybody to know about. And like when I would come around you, I could smell me. Like I said, I knew that if you all ever got a good look and knew who I was, you wouldn't like me anymore. So I kept a lid on that can, but I could smell it. And when I started allowing myself to get close to you, I was afraid you'd start smelling it too. And with a fourth step, we actually got that and we inventoried all that stuff in the can and we wrote about it and we listed it out and we looked at what our part was, what did it, and what instincts it pinged on, whether if it was my self-esteem or my security or my ambitions or what it was that was pinging on. And then, I sat down and told in the fifth step, told this man, this sponsor of mine, all these deep, dark secrets that I wasn't going to tell anybody. And then with the rest of it, I went out and I made amends to the people I'd harmed. I made amends to these people I stole pills from, these people I stole money from, to my parents for not, they were constantly having to, worry about what kind of trouble Dan was going to be in. I worried him to death. I may have killed my mother from worrying her. And I don't really mean that, but I do believe that trauma can manifest in illness and then it could actually make you physically
Sure.
sick.
Yeah.
My mom was physically sick most of her life, now I'm not taking that on completely. I've let that go, but, and I went around and I cleaned up my past. So now when I run around town, I don't have to worry about running into so-and-so or, and seeing somebody at Kroger's and worrying about, having to dive down the next lane. Because I've cleaned up that stuff, and then I started helping other people get sober. I started guiding them through these steps. So it rinsed me out. And then during all that time, these miracles happened, like that jail sentence fell off. And man, I have a list of them. My sponsor started, one of the things when I got arrested, every time I got arrested and moved this little town I'm in, my name would be in the paper and I'd embarrass my mom and dad because they were good, upstanding citizens of the town of New Albany. And here was little Dan getting in trouble again. Another caught with narcotics, got another DUI, got kicked off the basketball team when I was in high school for smoking pot on a bus. And all this stuff was in the paper. And then whenever I broke in and goes pills and it's a freaking felony, my name wasn't in the paper. They got spared that. Police come to my house that night looking for me because I booked. I didn't come back home. The guy knew who I was. Police searched my entire house looking for me. And I had a girlfriend then. My kids and her kids was asleep in their bedroom. Police looked for me under their beds and in their closets, and my kids did not wake up for any of that. They have no memory of the police looking for their father. And that's a miracle in my book.
Yeah.
I was being protected through that stuff. And, so then I start realizing that, and I start actually having some dependence on it that go, okay, God, this is what's happening. I don't know what the next right thing to do is, and I need your help with that. And then I start looking for the sticky notes as I just keep on doing the next right thing. And before long, an answer comes, and, and I build that faith that it's going to work out, that that same faith you talked about earlier, it's a similar thing. Back when you thought that this was going to blow over, you just kind of held on, except for we were doing it with our arms grabbed around it and squeezing it to death. It wasn't until we let go of that actually came to fruition and actually happened.
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Just, letting go. I thought that I was in control, or I was always trying to control things in and around. And I know I was.
Al-Anon says fix, manage, and control.
What's that?
Al-Anon folks say the fix, manage, and control. I'm always trying to fix things, manage things, and control them. I'm gonna guide the herd. I'm on
right. I have to be in charge. I have to know.
I have to get out of my own way.
Right. Yeah. And it's actually liberating to go, you know what? You're in charge. I'm just playing it out, because I don't have to think too hard about decisions. It just comes, and that's what I'm doing. And sometimes they're unconventional, but and I'm not going to lie and say that I'm always 150% okay after the choice is made. I can have apprehensions, because that's Kim having apprehensions, not believing or allowing to know that God wouldn't allow this to be happening, Kim, and that be your choice if he didn't have a plan, and that everything's going to be okay. So stop it. Right?
Because we are human.
Has he? Yeah. And look at, has he steered me wrong yet? No. Right. But it's hard. It's hard to.
It is hard.
Yeah, because it's hard. It's a learning process. I for sure, it's been for you, it's been much more longer than me, but it's not just the drinking. It's way more than the drinking that I am reprogramming here, me as a person.
I thought I had a drinking problem. Really what I had was a thinking problem.
Yeah. Stinking thinking.
Yep.
Really?
I heard a guy read those. There's some questions in an AA pamphlet that says things about whether, if you have an alcohol problem, you answer these 20 questions or whatever. And he substitute the word thinking for drinking in every one of them. So he'd say, do you stay up too late at night thinking? Did you have trouble getting up in the morning because you think too much? Do you waste time at work because of your thinking? And I had all these questions that would work just as well. I said yes to those just as well as I would say yes to the ones about drinking.
Yeah.
To turn over the wheel, that's, let go of that steering wheel and allow somebody else to drive. And, for a while, that was my sponsor. Nowadays I've, kind of turned that wheel over to this higher power and have faith that I'm being steered where I'm supposed to go, and good things keep on happening. And, and there's been some, and that's another thing you hear, it's not been all roses and rainbow farts. There's been some pretty tough stuff that's happened. I lost my mom when I was 14 months sober. And I was, I was on home incarceration for most of her downfall. So I couldn't help the way that I would have liked to. I was on home incarceration. Dad would call me in the middle of the night because mom fell down, and he couldn't get her back up in bed. And I would call down the probation department, or, the people who who I said owned my ankle bracelet. And, you weren't supposed to do this, but I said, hey, my dad needs some help with my mom, and I will be back, and I will call you back when I get back. And I just, left it on the answer machine. I went over there and I helped dad, and I come back home, and I never got in trouble for it. But I couldn't do as much as I would have liked to do. And I got set down in 2017. I was 3 years sober. And by this time, before my current sobriety date, I ended up losing my marriage and getting a divorce. And it was because of my drinking. I was sober for a year, and my wife really liked that dude who was sober. And then I started drinking again.
Oh.
And she said, nope, I'm not going to put up with not any more of that. And that's really when my divorce was final. That was the beginning of my last debauch. That was my final nosedive into just a lot of trouble. And my kids were scared to stay with me, and they were right. And I lost my train of thought there about that. So then I got sober, and the relationship with my kids' moms got a lot better, and my kids are doing better, and they're healing too while I was getting better. Because just like what you talked about your dad being sick made you sick. This is the only disease that'll make you sick when you ain't even got it. And I got set down, and my ex-wife called me, texted me, and said she needed to talk to me after work. And I didn't play that stuff anymore. You're going to have to tell me what you're wanting to talk about. I'm not walking into a trap. She said, this is too sensitive to text to you. You need to stop by on your way home from work. I need to talk to you. And I said, okay. And I got home, and she had told me that her father had molested my daughter, my 12-year-old daughter. And, you want to talk about, some faith in God and some faith in these 12 steps, and what, there's in that third step prayer, it says, take away my difficulties, the victory over them will bear witness to those I can help. And the help with your glory, your power, and your way of life. And I'm not capable of walking through that in a healthy manner without this program, and without the support I have around me, and without the support of this higher power. Because, if this would have happened when I was still drinking, he'd probably be dead and I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
And that ain't what happened. He's in prison. And I got a Christmas card from my daughter that year that I was thanking me because I was the only person who defended her for that during that period. Her
That
mother
believed her, you mean? That believed in her and her story? Her mother didn't?
Her mother believed it and still defended
him
her dad.
Because it's her father. You know what?
Yeah, I know.
What a horrible situation, though.
I don't know
right?
what's behind that completely.
Well,
I know we all have our suspicions about what's behind that. And I try not to go there because that's not my business, not my deal.
No.
But my daughter, she's recovering from that. And by all counts, she's a relatively healthy 15-year-old girl now. And I know that leaves scars that will never heal completely. But it seems, and I'm not sure about this, and some people seem to be able to skate through life without having any shit happen to them.
I know, right?
I don't know very many of them. And I think even those that are showing that are doing just like you and I did. They're putting on the smiley face and pretending like nothing's happened. I don't really believe that's the case, because I think, it's kind of sucky, and it's Buddhist philosophy. It says life is suffering.
Yeah.
We're going to have battles to fight in life. And, today, the way I look at it is that my job is to win that battle, and then go back to the front lines and show other people how I did it, so that I can help walk them through.
Yeah.
And I've watched my daughter do that with hers already. And, parents drink, parents die early, kids are molested, people are killed. A lot of bad shit happens. And I don't think it's ever going to quit. People say that ain't the way it's supposed to be. And I'm not too sure. It's too regular from the beginning of mankind. If that's not the way it was supposed to be, then it would have been stopped by now. I just accept it as it is, and day at a time living really helps me. All I gotta do is do what's in front of me today, and that drives
Yeah,
some people close to me wild because they don't want to know if they want to make plans in 3 months, and I don't want to. I got to figure out what I'm doing today and worry about that. And in the morning, I'll wake up and I'll look at my calendar and what I have to do tomorrow, and I'll do that. And
I
when,
do that too. And I got out of the habit, and that's a huge thing for me because my phone is where I keep my schedules of what I got to do, right? It could be whatever, stupid stuff, call, bell, call, yeah, do whatever. But there was a time when I would be so obsessed with those lists and I'd move stuff and I'd do this and I would know, I would always look a week ahead. What am I going to do then? Until this
that
last year
manages
where
it.
I'm just day by day. I go like right now, I don't even know what time I have to get up tomorrow morning because I don't know what I have going on. So tonight, right before I go to bed, I'll look at what I'm doing tomorrow and I go, okay. And then I'll set my alarm accordingly.
Yep.
That's it. And I
I'll look at the
find,
24 hours ahead
oh
and
my
I'll set
God,
sales for that 24 hours.
don't you find it so much better live?
It
I don't
is.
know how to explain it.
Yes.
Because because the truth is shit happens and life happens and most likely things aren't going to play out the way that you've got it scheduled for the next week because that person might have to cancel or they want to reschedule or you don't feel well. Life happens.
Or worse.
Yeah. And but that's how I was like, okay, well, this has to happen and this day, and this, and then I'd schedule like I was like like everything gets jammed in, at full days. And now I have to incorporate more Kim time. That's something I need to really work on is self
Self-care.
self care. And the reason why is because I did retire and I'm trying to get my business going, right? And if you've had your own business, it takes a lot of time, right? Like there's no Monday to Friday. It's like always. It's all the time in the day. So me being me again, you get a you when I'm into something, I'm into it. And then I don't want to stop to go eat. I don't want to
Yeah.
stop to go meditate. I don't want to stop. I have good intentions. And I go, Kim, you're doing exactly the same with this as you did with alcohol. Right? Very interesting. Very interesting because really, I'd be the first one to tell you, you need to take a couple of hours every day for yourself. I'm very good at giving advice. But then when you turn it around, and I will like I do here and there, but it's not consistent. And I'm not happy as a result of it not being consistent because I need that. I do.
Me
But
too.
in my head, I'm like, those 2 hours I'm wasting. I could be doing this and this and this. But then I go, I got to trust in God that He's going to go, Kim, no, you need the 2 hours to yourself. Get yourself centered and you will do better in all that other stuff that you have to do during
Yep.
the
I
day.
put away the bullwhip and the baseball bat. The bullwhip to whip me into whatever I need to be doing, and the baseball bat for beating myself up when I didn't do it.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
me too. I do it too. Like if I didn't get done something on my list that I wanted to get done that day, I'd be angry at myself. Like I'm the hardest person on my bloody
we
self,
all, yep, we're our
And
own worst critics.
the truth is, like if I wasn't really feeling well and that particular thing didn't get done for like 4 days, it didn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It's really,
I used to always
it's
say I'm
really
like
not
just
much
like
that
a
matters.
man. You men, you men, you know how to live. If you know what women, we're like crazy, man. We are nitpickers. We got to be on top of everything. We got to be in control of everything. And you know this because if we give you a to-do list, we expect it done the next day.
Right.
Where every man will go, I'll get it done when I get it done. I get it done next week. I get it done in 2 weeks, whatever, right? Meanwhile, we're like, no, you have to get it done. But the truth is, it gets done. And you're not stressed out as opposed to it getting done under stress because you got to get it done.
Yep.
I wish I had my brain was wired like a man. You guys just seem to be way more calmer and because you're like, yeah, it'll get done. It drives us nuts, but we're the ones who are like this.
Yeah, I see. I know what you mean. I take a little exception that we're not. we're just different crazy. It's
Oh, okay. Different crazy then.
yeah,
Calmer crazy or less, you have less busyness. There's a comedian who talks about that. He's got a man's brain on his stage and a woman's brain on the stage. And with our brain, there's like waves going this way, that way, like constant. And then with you guys, there's not too much going on. And they say with men, you deal with one box at a time.
yeah.
There's no multitasking. You do this, you do that. Whereas us, we have our hands. And the truth is, you can't multitask. I used to think I could
Yep.
multitask. I
I hear
just do
people say
five
it all the
things
time.
not very well. That's
Bullshit.
what happens.
Yeah, you'll
It
do a
is.
whole
Yeah.
bunch of stuff half-assed.
That's it. That's it. But then you feel all proud though, because you got five things done in an
Yeah.
hour. But the truth is, it's half-assed.
You put a check mark down the list. I'm very list oriented, and I have to be careful about that. I need a certain level of that because I do lose things if I don't write them down, but
Me
I don't
too.
obsess over the list anymore.
Yeah.
Uh, and I just really, man, I really have come to this. I used to think these things mattered, and the fact is, there just ain't that much that matters. What matters is my relationship with the people, those people that are around me. What matters is my relationship with my father, my kids. I've got a band of brothers around me that would take bullets, and we do take bullets for one another. Those men were ready to form a posse and go after that man, and they were mad, so I didn't have to be, so that I could be support my daughter, and we live life together all day long. We have a app that we talk all day long. There's 8 of us, and it's a video chat thing, and we just chime in and we keep each other on board on what's going on in our lives. And if somebody's having a hissy fit over something, they puke it on us rather than puke it on their wife, or the kids, or the boss, or that kind of stuff. Because I say that you're going to have this negative energy come into your life from various directions. It's kind of like that thing I was saying earlier about the shit happens. It just does. And what I do with that's what really matters, right? And I have to discharge that energy somehow, because if I just keep stuffing it down, like you were talking earlier, if I stuff it down, then it's going to blow up, and it's probably going to blow up on the worst person possible. It's going to blow up on my boss, or it's going to blow up on my significant other, or my child. So I got to discharge that. And what I have is I can discharge that to the universe through these safe people I have in my life. Because when I call Shane and I rip in and I'm just puking left and right and MF and na, he knows what that is, and he can absorb that, and he don't give me a lot of shit about it, and he don't try to tell me what to do. He just lets me discharge. It's like a grounding rod. And I get to dump it all, and in 3 days something happens to him and he gets to do it back to me. And we have these guys, and we just do that. We discharge that energy on one another. We know what it is because we're all safe, and we know we're all alcoholic addicts that are just fucking crazy. And but
Crazy in a good way.
the rest of the world looks at us and we're doing pretty good, man. We really are. We're all solid. We all got some years of sobriety, and just last night, I was able to give I gave one guy a 4-year token. I've been sponsoring him for 4 years. Wow. And I gave another guy a 2-year token. And then one of my sponsees gave another guy a 1-year token. So that was 3 people in the lineage because prior to 2014, if you come in contact with me, if you came in contact with me, there was a negative impact. I can promise you. You may not have known what it was, but and I didn't look like I was negative, but I was in your medicine closet stealing your pills, or I was doing something that I shouldn't have been doing, or just that energy that you were talking about your father. We carry that around like a cloud. So when you come around me, you're going to get in that cloud, and you're going to walk away going, I don't really like that. But today, that's not the case. Today, I'm casting out that positive energy. I'm doing everything I can to balance the karmic scales and
stay on a higher frequency.
Yep, and help people. That's really the bottom line of what I do today is pour a lot of energy into helping other people. And today, that's helping other people get sober. Mostly help men get sober, and then in the TSSR thing, just help people use these 12 steps to get their can cleaned out and emptied. So then when you move forward after that, you know, you got your can down to about 25% again. It ain't full and tipping over anymore. Because when it's up here, one little thing happens to you. It's that stuffing thing. One little thing happens and your can can't accept it, man, and you don't know what to do. You've tipped over. You've hit that tipping point. Well, now, you know, when I got my can at 25% and my ex-wife tells me what she told me, I got room to absorb that without blowing up, without tipping over. And so I teach, you know, that's what we teach. You don't have to be an alcoholic either. You know, you don't, because I do know there's some difference in us. There is some difference in us. There's some kind of mental twist that we have that is different, but in the human condition has it to some level or another. You know, this craziness that you and I have. You're just not drinking, right? I mean, you see people go to the grocery store and look at how miserable people are. It really showed up during COVID. You know, you watch these people, even when they weren't drinking, people were nuts, you know.
COVID, well, yeah, it affected a lot of people's mental health for sure. I'm
Right.
afraid. I don't know what's gonna, and they're not reporting it. They're not advertising or putting out on the news or anything all the people that have actually taken their lives or attempted to during these last 2 years. It's nobody's fault. It's not the government's fault or anything. It's just, it's so sad. It is sad. There's a negative there, like you could feel it. You can feel it in the air,
It's
right?
like the earth reached that tipping point, you know, that
Yeah.
everybody's cans was full, you know, and then you throw something like that on us, and we're not, most people are not equipped to handle it. I'll tell
No.
you,
This
I,
is, and who
it
would
didn't
be?
even,
This is all new. It's unknown.
I can
It's
almost say to you, and I know it sounds a little bit crazy, it didn't even phase me.
COVID.
Hmm.
You know what? Uh okay, besides I don't want people to lose their lives or anything like
I
that,
don't
but
either.
for being in my home, I was isolating anyways. It made me feel normal
Hmm.
because everybody else had to do that. And then I could talk to people by Zoom and
Yep.
call them, and I felt though then normalized. Like,
You know, all our AA meetings went to Zoom, so that's what
yeah.
happened. And you know, now what we have, we've just started it this past couple of weeks, is we have a hybrid Zoom live meeting. We go have a live meeting if you want to go to it, and we pipe it through Zoom if you don't want to. And so you can be at the meeting whichever way you choose to be. I thought that it would. I thought COVID was going to take the wheels out from underneath my handyman business in March of 2019. I got laid off of that job after 28 years. I mean, like tapped on the shoulder and said, "We don't need you anymore." Uh, and
Because of COVID.
my heart wasn't this prior to COVID. This is
Okay.
19 March of 19, a full year before
That's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it. And I had to find out what I was going to do. And they gave me, you know, another one of these, as far as I'm concerned, a miracle, because I wasn't liking it anymore. My heart wasn't in it. You know, I got really good at it. I got really good at what I was doing, and it got boring.
Yep.
And the only joy I got was teaching other guys how to do it as good as I knew how to do it. But my heart just wasn't in anymore. And I also, when I got sober, I started seeing that the emperor didn't have no clothes on either. So there's, you know, I didn't want to
What?
do that. Have
What?
you ever heard that? The emperor has no clothes?
Yes, I didn't hear you. Yes, okay.
So when they wanted you to do these little dances and jigs in corporate America, I started going, you know, I don't think I'm going to do it, you know, and they wanted to sign me up to be on some special team to do some extra work, and, you know, for no extra pay. And I said, no, thank you. You know, and we're all before all those years. Remember, I told you I wanted to be the superstar. You know, I raised my hand, volunteered for every team, and worked, you know, 78 hours a week if that's what they wanted me to do. And, you know, and I stopped doing all that. I said, no, I'm here from 9 to 5 and I'm going home. One thing was, as I started doing it, is I had to do that on my ankle bracelet. You know, I could only leave at a certain time in the morning, and I had to be back home at a certain time in the day. And when I stopped playing their game that they wanted you to do, they ended up laying me off. And so they gave me a great severance package. I mean, they paid me like my full salary for like 6 months, and told me to apply for unemployment, which didn't make any sense to me. You know, I'd never been unemployed. I never knew anything about that. So now I'm drawing a full severance plus unemployment. So I'm making more money than I ever made not working. And this handyman thing fell right in my lap, because I know how to do a lot of stuff. My dad and I have been building stuff and fixing our own things, and there's never been a handyman in my house. If the washer needed fixed, we fixed it. anything that needed to be done, we just did it. And Dad knew how to do everything. He taught me how to do everything. And some friend of mine that was a realtor knew I wasn't working, called me up and asked me if I could replace a door in a house she was trying to sell. And I went and I said, sure. And she said, well, how much? And I kind of got on the internet, scoured around, trying to figure out how much is that worth, and gave them a price. And they said, yeah. And then somebody else called me, and somebody else called me, and somebody else called me. And the next thing you know, I'm a handyman. In 2017, I built this wood shop in the backyard. So now it's about 50-50 where I build custom woodwork and I go out and do handyman stuff. And so when COVID hit, I was scared to death that people wasn't going to want you in their house anymore. The exact opposite happened. The exact opposite. Right? Everybody's home and everybody's looking at all the stuff that ain't working in their homes, and they want somebody to come fix it. Yeah. And I'm not having any problem making appointments. You don't have to take a day off work for me to come over anymore either, right. So everybody's available too. So like my business boomed.
Yeah.
And it never did slow down. And it still hasn't, so like in the grand scheme of things, I don't watch the TV or the news anymore at all either. That's another thing I cut out.
Me too.
Is one of these miracles, because that ankle bracelet costs $100 a week to wear it. Remember, I had it on for 9 months.
You had to pay for it?
Yeah. My lawyer said, this home incarceration, are you sure you can afford that? And I was like, man, I can't not afford it, buddy. Well, you can't stop paying the gas bill, and you can't stop paying the electric bill, and you can't stop paying the house payment, and you can't stop paying the car payment. But I could turn off the damn TV, and the cable TV was over $100 a month, and it wasn't going to cover it all. And it was a tough sacrifice at first, but it's another one of these things. It's like, thank you. Because I never turned it back on, man. And I just keep all that negativity out of my life. And if people hadn't have been telling me about COVID, anything I got about COVID come from people telling me about it. I never saw a thing about it on TV. I never turned on TV.
Me either. We're the same. But mine came from cop stuff, right? I don't want to. It's always bad, the news.
It is. Why do I want to?
I mean, the COVID.
It's just like eating bad food. It's just like eating bad food. It's a bad mental diet if I'm going to sit there and watch it.
Yes, exactly. And that's how people, your beliefs on COVID are your beliefs, but the media is one way. Like on the actual television, they're just one-sided with what's happening with COVID. You don't hear any of the alternate maybe ideas or suggestions or information or facts.
Selling commercials.
Yeah. So, I try, like, even I have a friend who is completely negative, and I had to tell him that that's another thing that I found. I've been purging people out of my life that have those negative vibes. Now, he truly, truly believes that, and he's a Christian, that this is all perhaps the Armageddon. Can't see the word.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, and there's going to be a huge financial thing next month. If it's not on August 10th, it's going to be in September. And I said to him, because when I talked to him, I was in a good mood, and I could feel my demeanor changing as he's talking, because obviously he's
bringing you down, though, ain't he?
Yeah, he's bringing me down. I said, when are you going to stop with this? Because it's been a year, and he sends me videos. And one of the videos was like my sister, one of my daughters, and my mother got the vaccine, right? I have not, and neither has one of my daughters, right? And it's not that I'm anti-vax. I'm just waiting. I just want to hear more about what's in it and stuff, and see and watch. Well, he sent me a video that basically says that anybody who got the vaccine is going to die within 2 to 3 years. I'm sure you've heard that, right? Maybe not. And I'm like,
various versions of that.
And I'm like, don't you understand what you're doing to me mentally by sending me something like this? Like the people that mean the most in my world, those are 3 of them. And my other daughter. Like, you can't tell somebody, and it doesn't matter if I believe them or not, it's put in my head, and I don't know what the truth is. Honestly, I don't know yet. Maybe people will start to die and do that. I don't know. You don't know. Who thought there'd be a freaking pandemic? Who thought that all of this stuff would happen and what's happening? We don't know. All I know is, like, I'm like, I can't talk to you anymore. I want to be your friend.
There's a line in the big book that says that it talks about the deliberate manufacture of misery. where we go out and we find stuff that makes us miserable, and we invest in it. And that's what people do with the news, and do that. They're like addicted to bad news. And the worst people in my life who I've cut out are these people who are the deliberate manufacturer of misery. And when they find it, they send it to me. I'm like, oh, hold on, no, don't send that shit my way. And I've just get truthful with people and say, look, I'll still be your friend, but you got to stop sending this shit to me, because I don't care. If I wanted to know about it, I'd turn the TV on. I'm purposely insulating myself from it. And some people just quit talking to me, and that is okay.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, I support him because I want to support my friends in their ventures, right? And whatever he's going to do, but I don't need to hear, and he keeps doing it. And I keep telling him, and he keeps sending me this stuff, and I'm like,
So,
please stop this, because it's not good. And then when I still meet with my psychologist, okay, right? Because this is a lifetime thing. This is not, I'm not healed, like you're a work in progress constantly, right? And she said, you can't talk to him anymore. Stop talking to him. And
well, if you don't set boundaries without consequences. If you set boundaries and then there's no consequence for the boundary, there is never a boundary set. It's saying, hey, look, I am not taking this from you anymore. And if you do, I will block your ass. And then when they continue to do it, you got to enforce the boundary that you set, the consequence that you set forth, because people do that. They will walk over you. They're just spiritually sick.
I don't know what's wrong with him. Here's my dilemma is,
he can believe in God all he wants to. He's spiritually sick if he's throwing that stuff at you all the time.
Yeah, because there's something wrong. And I don't know him that well. I met him, you meet people through networking, through things. So it's been like over a year now, and we've chatted, and I took one of his online courses for coaching.
God, is that the coaching you want?
Well, you know what? I did it to support him, and no, it wasn't comparable to the coaching that I was involved with when I had, when I woke up and went, my brain is back. No, but I did it to and he's not coaching. I get what you're saying. But I guess because whenever I hear somebody is a Christian person, I just want to believe in them and believe what they're saying, because he professes this connection, right, with God, and his relationship with God has been much longer and deeper than me, and he takes courses and knows the Bible and can recite it, and I can't do all this stuff. So I just assume he's more connected. So when he comes up with this stuff and he says, no, Kim, this is my belief, and there's going to be a financial, he scares the crap out of me. He scares me so much, because there's a part of me that believes him. And I don't know why. And yet I have people telling me he's a quack. Don't believe him. Just because he's a Christian doesn't mean he's being truthful. He thinks he believes what he's saying, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. But in my head, I'm like, is God giving him, this information?
No, I'll tell you that right here. The reason it sticks to us is because we're like this hard drive, like that garbage can thing. Everything that gets thrown on me sticks on me, and I can't help it. I cannot help it. The only thing, if I sit here and eat shitty food all day long, I don't care how much I exercise, I cannot beat that diet. And the same thing comes in spiritually. If I allow this bad spiritual diet into me, no matter how much faith I have, I can't beat it. It's like trying to out exercise a bad diet. It's too much. And those people are not right.
Well,
you know what?
I begin to think, is he maybe he isn't right in the head. Maybe he can present okay sometimes, and then all that other shit's going. I mean, he lives alone. He lives in the basement of somebody's home. He's all by himself all day. He doesn't have a spouse or kids. So maybe he is a wackadoo.
Yeah. And when it comes down, there's some things that goes, but I have to be very stingy with my energy. And it's not good for me. Is that good for you? Is that good for you, that feeling that he's giving you? You know, if I
No,
was
it's
standing
not.
behind you,
It
if I
takes,
was standing behind you, poking you with an ice pick in your back all the time, would you allow me to keep on doing that? Or would you turn around and say, stop that shit, Dan?
no,
I
you're
am
right.
tired of you doing that to me.
You're right. You're right. And I have told him in other instances too, where he's yeah.
Because I
But
just don't allow it anymore, you know, and it's taken time to do that. Uh, some of it, you know, one of the things that I had a lot of trouble coming to grips was with my codependency, and it come into my faith in other human beings and hoping like that what you were telling me had some validity and that you really were um, somewhere inside you was the true a true feeling that what you were pouring on me was for my own good. I like give you the benefit of the doubt that that was what this other human being was doing, and and it was that it does come to my codependency of wanting that out of other people, needing that affirmation from people, because if you were even just talking to me, it made me feel better. But after a while, that diet of stuff that didn't make me feel better had to go. Just like my eating habits and my exercise habits and my other things. But it took longer for the people, you know, like real early in recovery, I started realizing that if I ate better, I felt better
mm,
because, you know, I quit drinking. I started feeling better. I'm like, hey, I like this feeling better. What else can I do to feel better? Oh, wow. Met somebody that started teaching me about a good diet. Oh, darn, I started eating better, but put better fuel in this engine and it runs better and I feel better. And so I just kept on looking. And so just things whittled out of my life over the years of things that weren't working for me, because ultimately I am, you know, I got this faith in this higher power and I understand that. But ultimately it's up to me to take care of me.
mm,
And if
mhm.
I don't take care of me, I can't expect other people to. I got to train people how I'm going to allow them to treat me. And I've learned to do that, and a lot of people are not in my life anymore as a result of it, because I don't have room for it. I do not have room for it. That's why these 8 men that's around me, that we feed each other good food and good diet all day long, you know, and we know. And you know, if I was in a crisis right now, I know I could hit a button on that telephone and half of them would be here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they wouldn't be bringing poison with them. They'd be bringing love and real compassion. It gets me itchy. It really gets me off balance when I hear you say that you allow somebody to get you that far off balance.
I know. I know because I never thought that he was unbalanced. You know what I mean? So when it would be like
Because you give them the
you
benefit of the
having
doubt.
trust in somebody and then they start telling you this stuff and then you're like, oh, but they're credible, right? They're a credible person and this is what they believe. And you don't know because we're in a world of freaking craziness, you know?
Yep.
Um,
And, you know,
and then I
I've got to.
start worrying and I start spinning. Whereas like 10 minutes before I talked to him, I was good.
Yeah,
And it's still like that was yesterday and it's still flipping in my head about
I
it.
can tell.
Well, because so and
You
it's
can't shake it. It's stuck on your hard drive. You know, the FBI comes and looks at your computer. Everything that's ever been on your computer, they will find. You might think you hit the erase button and the reset button on it, but that ain't not the way that works.
no,
When you know what my father-in-law got put in prison for? Child pornography. He did not get put in prison for touching my daughter.
okay.
They come got his computer. He tried to wash it all off, but it ain't never clean. And that's the same thing with our souls. That stuff gets on us and it don't ever go away.
Well, I
You
need
can
his words
overcome
to
it.
go away. I can get his words to go away, right?
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
it is.
But
Yeah, he has. And I'm like,
those
so of
footprints don't
course.
go away though. Those little bites of information don't go away. You got
Ah, well,
you
and
got
that's
to,
what
you know,
I go.
that
So,
dude has to stop looking at the porn
oh,
sites. You
he's
know, that's the only way. And so, like, that's the same kind of thing. The only way he's got to quit going to those websites.
he's gonna he's gonna drive himself nuts because I
Yep.
said, when's it gonna stop? you're saying August, but you're saying maybe it could be September. And then when August comes and goes, and then September comes and goes, you're going to say, oh, it's October, or no, it's going to happen in November. And it's just going to keep, I think he's going to have a freaking breakdown, you
Let
know?
him.
He's too much in his head. He's too much reading
Have you
stuff.
ever tried to save alcoholics?
No.
You want to try to find somebody that's wacko to deal with. I mean, and I have to let them go at times, and that's in the same kind of boundary stuff. Guy will come to me and he'll say, help me. And I have tools where I can help him, because I can tell him, just like a man told me, if you have this thing called alcoholism, like I got, and if you work these 12 steps and practice these principles in your daily life, I can guarantee you your life is going to get better. I can guarantee it. And I really can. And I know I can today. I've seen it happen to me. I've done fifth steps with 20 people in 6 years of recovery, and every one of them is still good today. But that man that told me that, he said, I can also tell you that if you got this thing called alcoholism that I got, that's what he said. And if you don't work these 12 steps and you don't practice these principles in your daily life, your life's going to get a whole lot fucking worse, is what he told me. And he was right. His same guy with the crystal ball said about me being in jail and stuff, right? Being in jail or dead before I get this thing. So I know I can help these guys, and they come to me and they ask me to do it. And then when I tell them what to do, when I give them the suggestions, because the only thing I can tell them to do is what I did.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I can do. What I have is I say, here's what I did. And I tell them what to do. And, and these guys, I can show them, I can introduce them to a whole line of guys that did what I told them to do. And it ain't me. It's God. And it's this process. And they won't do it. They, you say, call me every day, and they won't call you every day. It's like, you can't even do something that simple, but call me. Mm-hmm. And you have to say, look, you're not doing what I asked you to do. This isn't working. You're not doing it. Your job would do that. You weren't, if you showed up at work and didn't do what you're supposed to do, they'd tell you bye. And we had to look at, it's another analogy I use. I got this company called Danco LLC, and it is my life. And I have to fire the people in my life that are not working for me, that are working against me. I have to fire them. I have to, just like any good employer would do. Not any different than that in the same regard. The manager of Danco a few years ago was screwing Danco up real bad. I turned that over to somebody else. I brought in new management. I wiped out the whole management and I brought in new management. And ever since then, Danco's been doing pretty decent. On the surface, I live in the same house. I actually drive the same car. You look around, things are really not that different materially, but I'm a completely different person than I was 7 years ago. Completely different.
Amazing.
I'd invite you to come to these TSSR meetings and just check it out. Because you're familiar with the steps, but you haven't worked them, have you?
You're correct. I have not.
I would challenge you to give it a try.
I never got a sponsor because it would have been a temporary one when I was in Guelph. And then when I finished, it was all men that, I was in a group, and I knew of one all woman group, but I couldn't make it on Saturdays. You only met on Saturdays. And now, see, again, people come into your life. It was through my water business that I got in contact with another woman who then said, hey, because we started talking about drinking and not drinking. And then she was a member of that all women's group. It invited me. And now I've chaired meetings through it. And I feel like a goof going, ladies, I am thrilled to be here. I've been wanting to meet you all for so long and be a part of this group, and I couldn't, but now because we can do it virtually, I can. And it's every Saturday. So I do that, and it's all women. So this is
one of those ladies to take you through the work.
Pardon?
Ask one of those ladies to take you through the work.
Well, I have a name, and yes, I am to call her.
Hard to ask for help.
And no, well, it's not. It
is hard. No, it really is.
Yeah, and now I've moved as well. So now I am an hour and a half from where this group meets.
Yeah, but with these tools,
that woman lives there. So yeah. So if we
these tools, you can do anything. I sponsor people through this medium. through COVID. A lot of people,
Oh, for sure, for sure.
using
Yeah,
this
I'm
and
just
doing just
making
what
up
we're doing.
excuses. I mean, yes, it's been weeks now that I've been to call this woman, and sometimes, well, whenever it comes to me, because it's on my list, right, in my phone, when I see it, I'm just like, oh,
Yep.
I'm going to start something else again, right? And because it's going to be a process. I don't know how often I got to talk to her. I don't know for how long I got to talk to her, right? Not have to, sorry, but it's
Today,
another
that's
thing to
it.
add onto my to-do list to do. It's more time taken away from whatever else that I like. I never just sit there and do nothing all day. I'm constantly going.
So my assertion is that this is a lifelong progressive disease, and that's also what I've been taught. These 12 steps puts it in, has the ability to put it in permanent remission. Permanent remission. There's some words in the book say happy, joyous, and free, where you can be happy and be joyous and actually get back to the little girl that was I bet you if you found a picture of yourself when you were a little bitty girl, I bet you had a big old smile on your face and they're like not a care in the world. Before that your dad's alcoholism got in you, really, because you just really weren't aware enough to know what that was. And I don't know if you got any old film and albums like that you could potentially get your hands on and find a picture of that little girl. But we can get her back. And that's how it's happened to me, is that you get back to that and you get to wash that bunch of stuff off of you through using this stuff. And if you got diagnosed with a major illness, let's say cancer, and they told you it was progressive and it's going to get you and it's not going to get any better, but there's a treatment over here, would you shove it down the list every day?
No,
That's what you got
no,
to look
because
at
it's
like
not
this
gonna-
is. I don't mean to be hard. I
no,
am,
no, no. I understand. You're
because
right.
what I
You're
want,
right.
I've had this thing happen to me, and what my harsh desire is today is to give it to every single person I possibly can before I'm dead. Because I've had something happen to me that completely revolutionized my entire being,
Mhm.
completely. And I just want everybody to have it. I want everybody to have it because it is available to everybody. Like I said, I've got enough of a pool, a gene, um, a petri dish kind of thing of experiments where I watch it happen. How long we've been going?
Oh, I don't know.
3 hours.
Oh shit.
When I first told you that we might go 2 hours, you were like, whoa, hold on a minute.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of my podcasts go 3 hours. I think my record was 3.5 or something, and people will listen to it.
That's another ththing. I was wondering who listens to it for 2.5 hours, but
They
yeah.
may not bite it off in one chunk. That's the other thing about podcasts. You don't have to, you can push pause and come back and listen to some more of it later. But I've been doing this. I'm working on my third year, and I'm like 35,000 listens or something, 35,000 downloads in those 3 years or 2.5 years.
Crazy.
And a lot of people are listening to it. It's doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. And I do it for fun and for free. I don't make any money on it. I don't put no commercials on it. I do it because I'm trying to carry this 12-step message as far and wide as I possibly can to help people. We say in Alcoholics Anonymous, I have a primary purpose in life, and it is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics get sober too. And I take that a step further, and I say that my primary purpose is to help people recover from whatever it is that's got them, because it ain't always alcohol. I got a sponsee that deal was overspending. I had sponsees that just weren't very happy, and
Yeah. People don't realize that there's more. Well, yeah, addictions it doesn't stop at drugs and alcohol. I
yep.
mean,
My
yeah,
question to people is,
shopping is huge.
do you have any room for
There's
any
sex addiction
better? Yep.
as
I say to
well.
people, do you have any room for any better in your life or any more? Is there any room? Could anything be better? Or would you like to have any more of life? I mean, like really life? And I think there's not too many people that can answer that. No, they don't. They don't want any more. They're bad. They're in
Yeah.
bad shape.
No, no, good. I'm good. I got enough I got enough life, or I got enough good. Yeah.
Yeah. But do you have the life you want, And, this stuff of being self-employed is a dream, and it frees me up to do the stuff that I'm doing. And like I said, I got a whole team of guys that are proof positive along with me that are carrying this, beating this drum alongside of me. And I wouldn't have it any other way.
Beautiful.
So I will send you the invite to the TSSR meetings, which are Thursday nights. What, you and I are behind me, or are we on the same?
I don't know. Right now it's
10 o'clock here.
o'clock.
So we're on the same.
Yeah. Where are you again?
I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, basically.
Kentucky. I did write that down.
I actually live in Indiana, but my little town is across the Ohio River from Louisville, Kentucky. So when you tell people
my little town is about an hour and a half northeast of Toronto.
Yeah. So when you tell people where you're from, you say Toronto, and just like I say Louisville.
Well, just because I hate to say Toronto, because it's certainly not, and people, I don't live in.
I don't like to admit I'm from Kentucky either, but I had to say that because nobody knows where New Albany, Indiana is, but most people know where Louisville, Kentucky is.
Why don't you like to say you're from Kentucky?
It's a little rivalry thing around here,
Oh, okay. Not embarrassed. I've actually never
statehood stuff and allegiances to I'm a Hoosier. I'm not a
Hoosier.
Indiana Hoosiers.
Oh, okay.
That's the state motto thing in the basketball team, and most of my friends live over in Kentucky too, so we get to banter back and forth. I got sober in Louisville about being from They can joke around at me about being from Indiana, and I can joke around about their marrying their cousins down there in Kentucky and stuff like that.
Very nice. Oh, very good.
Well, I've enjoyed tonight.
Yes, me too.
I love these conversations. I like to talk about it and just hear how people, I don't know, every time I hang up off of these podcasts, I feel like I got a new friend. And my friend net cannot be deep or wide enough.
That's true.
That's when I first start sponsoring guys, that I tell them, I say, it looks like I'm taking you through these 12 steps, but what I'm really doing is I'm creating a new friend, because I need as many battle buddies besides this thing helping me fight this disease as I can have. You drop me into a battle, and that's the way I look at this. If you drop me into a battle zone by myself, I'm done. I can't fight a battle by myself. Drop me into a war zone by myself, I'd be dead. I'd be dead in minutes. If you drop me in a battle zone with a bunch of warriors that are doing this thing together, and we got a chance.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, you got any concluding thoughts? Got any? Always offer my guests a conclusion and see, just kind of a wrap up thing to see if there's anything.
The only thing I can say is there is a way out. You can't give up on yourself. You are worth it. God put us here, and oh my God, He put us here and gave us an intellect, in a physical body. We're spiritual beings. He has given us the ability to do incredible things. And we're only working at a court, like some aren't even operating or taking advantage of that, of what God wants. God wants us to be living our fullest, happiest life. He didn't want me sitting on the couch, drinking my face off every day and passing out, or falling asleep on friggin' bathroom floors and stuff, He for me, for you, for everybody, he wants the best. And He's there to help you do it. And whether you don't believe in God, or you believe in higher power, whatever you believe in, you have to there has to be some faith in something, and just go with it. They say kids are resilient. We were all kids once. I think resiliency is within all of us. Yeah. Sometimes I also know I'm not angry at the things that happened to me. I've forgiven things. I've realized that it's made me who I am. It's given me point of views that actually have been very helpful in helping a lot of people, because I can relate to them and I can help them with, like, people go, what do you know? You don't have any idea about that, right? How can you help me? And I actually can go, you know what? No, but I have. Like, I've had so much happen in my life, that I think it'd be hard pressed to say that I haven't experienced something that you could come up with. But I think that's his plan. I really do. Like you, I'm here now. I'm retired. I'm doing a business where I can continue to help people in a different, not in policing world. I've been given the ability to write a book, with 2 chapters in a book, with a lot of what we spoke about tonight, to inspire women. It's called Women Empowering Women to Succeed. And that's the purpose, right? Men can read it too, and there's always one man who writes in the book, but it's you're co-authoring this with other people who have their stories.
I'm familiar with that, or not
Right?
with that, but that concept such as that.
Yeah. So I know it's him, and he's telling me basically, Kim, you need to tell your story, because I know you feel the same. If there's even one person that listens to this, one person, and it sparks something in them to make a change, then oh my God, right?
Yep.
Like, who doesn't want to save a life?
Everybody's story is valuable.
Yes.
And if I would have probably not, if I was picking, I probably wouldn't have picked the journey that I had. But the truth is, I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change a piece of it.
Right.
It brought me to where I am today.
Yeah.
I'm not, I won't give up what I have today. I am very blessed and grateful for what I have today.
Exactly. And that's what you've got to do. You get in the habit of that too, is when you get down, whether you're hard on yourself or you're just not feeling right, and we all get that way, then stop and think of, if you can, 3, if not 1 thing that you're grateful for. And there'll be a switch, because if you're grateful for something, you can't be ungrateful over
Yep.
here and bitching about whatever it is bothering you.
Yep.
And it puts you into a different state.
And gratitude
Works
is
for me.
fertilizer for tomorrow's blessings.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It was great to hear your story tonight, and like you said, and it's sometimes tough to listen to what we do go through, but I think it's vital, because otherwise it allows people to understand that they're not alone, and every person's story is valuable, and nobody's story is unique, really. Other people have gone through what we've gone through, and once we let our stories out, when we shine our light, we give other people the power to shine theirs, and to know that, like you said, there is a way out. One of my best friends says, "This is the way," and there is a way out. And until we talk about it,
There is just one catch, right?
What's
You
the catch?
have to take the step.
Yep, you have to take some action. There's action required.
Yes, unfortunately, that's where the.
What else you gonna do?
Oh,
Sit
I
on your
know.
ass?
Yeah. But some people, they're not going to want, like, no, it's like,
Yeah, some people want it just to happen by osmosis. People just,
yeah,
I'll tell you, and I'll be real careful. I'll say as apologetically as I can. Some people think if they just come to meetings, they will get as good as the people who work the steps just because they're hanging around with them, and they don't work that way.
no.
You don't get this thing by osmosis. It takes some work.
And it's not easy either. Yeah. And the work isn't easy. The work
not.
could be emotional. It could be trying. It could, but.
And the steps look like they're meant to punish you, is the way I looked at them at first. They look like a punishment. They look like they were something that's going to hurt me. And it turned out when I was done with them, man, it's the best thing I ever did, and it didn't punish me at all. And it was actually very cathartic. It was healing. And, it was like, whoa, why was I, for 4 years, I did everything but work them steps. And when I worked them, I was like, God damn, how come I didn't do that before now?
Yeah.
And I tell everyone my sponsees.
You made up the fear. That's why you made up some fear.
Tell everyone my sponsees the same thing, and then later on I get to smile at them, look at them, I go, I told you, didn't I? And they go, yep. Now they're telling some other guy, oh, dude, come on, you need to do this. Let me help you. Yep. Yeah. So I'll close up my podcast with 2 things. and I say them every single time. And they're because like these things I was saying that people say to me, and it sticks. One of them is that if you're not having a blast in your recovery, it's your own damn fault. And one man told me one time early on, and when I was doing this playing halfway in this program, he said, Dan, the thing is, you have to participate in your own recovery. Mm-hmm. And so now I just thank everybody out there for allowing Kim and I to participate in our recoveries in this manner tonight. Peace out.